Good morning. Keir Starmer today marks 50 days as Prime Minister.
Well, it's certainly not been smooth sailing for the Prime Minister or his government.
And, of course, pressure is growing over their decision to cut winter fuel payments.
Wild weather combined with a bank holiday long weekend expected to cause chaos on the roads. We'll be joined by travel guru Simon Calder in just a moment to see how you can avoid the worst of it.
Jermaine Jenas speaks out again as he apologises for the scandal which has seen him sacked immediately by the BBC and dropped by his own talent agency.
This is completely on me. I am 100% in the wrong and I accept full responsibility for that.
As the final body is recovered from the sunken Bayesian superyacht, Italian authorities are preparing to reveal what may have caused the tragedy.
Robert Kennedy Jr. drops out of the race for president as he endorses Donald Trump. And that's a move his famously Democrat family have labelled a betrayal of their values.
Face tattoos, are they ever socially acceptable in the workplace? We'll be debating that shortly.
Good morning. It's a bumper day of Premier League action as Pep Guardiola insists he wants a quick resolution to the 115 charges hanging over his Manchester City side. We'll also hear about England's progress in the cricket, and in tennis we look ahead to the US Open.
It's a wet start to the bank holiday weekend for southern and southeastern parts of the UK, with further showers elsewhere. Will there be any brighter weather this weekend? I'll have the full details coming up soon.
It's just gone 1 minute past 6. I'm Ellie Costello.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast. I'm going to have to roll my sleeves up because I've got buttons on the...
Noisy buttons.
Yeah, isn't that a nuisance?
Great jacket, though, I will
thank
say.
you.
I do like you in white. This is what I said to you last week.
I know, yeah, and I love what you were wearing yesterday.
Thanks.
Darling, it was scoop-necked, very
And then I
nice.
thought I want to stay on the scoop neck
Yeah, the scoop neck is
trend.
lovely.
That's what I'm doing again today.
So pardon us at 6 o'clock
yeah,
in the
no,
morning.
you do look very regal.
These are the things you have to... That's not quite so clangy. Oh, it is. Hang on.
But we're at work today, but lots of people won't be, will they?
No, I know.
They're on their bank holidays.
I was driving up the M40 from London yesterday to home, and the roads were full. It was clearly people had taken a look at the weather and thought, let's get out to a bank holiday.
Let's go now, because it's miserable today.
Yeah. But what do you insist, make sure, before you get in the car, you know you're going on a long journey, actually, or the train or whatever, or a boat, what do you make sure you've got with you? What are those things that you absolutely must have? Well, there's been a survey done on this.
Oh, OK.
It goes with the bank holiday, doesn't it? Simon Calder's with us as well. He'll have a few ideas. Apparently, number one is water nowadays. You definitely
Can't
take
go anywhere without
bottles of water. And then it's number two is make sure everybody goes to the loo, even though they say they don't need to. And number three is baby wipes.
Baby wipes?
Yeah.
What do you need a baby wipe for?
Everything.
Oh.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Everything.
OK.
Yeah.
I can't say I'd pack a baby wipe.
I take baby wipes with me everywhere.
Do you?
You've probably got them down.
Thing is, there's actually there has been analysis done down the years where the surface or the cockpit of your car, if you like, is actually a very, very dirty and bacteria-ridden surface. So I can understand why you want anti-bac wipes.
Baby wipes.
So you just start cleaning the car?
Yeah, basically,
I
yeah.
was just going to say any smudges on the windows or anything like that the kids always would.
So every second journey to the car wash, I have the interior done.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Is that how you work things out, eh?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I never have the
I
interior
would
done.
say-
Don't you?
Yeah, mine's very bad as well. I'm always molting. There's blonde hair all over my car. I would say snacks.
Yes, snacks.
Can't go
very
anywhere
much
without
so,
snacks.
Yeah.
Snacks,
Well,
water,
nowadays in a modern
phone.
survey it says healthy snacks.
Yeah, phone. Simon Calder, you're the expert on all things. What would you
absolutely
say?
on snacks. You could take energy bars, but I prefer bananas. If you go out there, have a look in my bag now. I'm going on a journey to Devon, foolish me, immediately after this. And, yep, I've got energy in the form of bananas. I've also got energy, and I'm surprised somebody hasn't mentioned this yet, in the form of a phone charger.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Wow. Absolutely. That was number 4 on the list, actually. Make sure everything is charged.
Yes.
And that you've got power banks and everything you need. You never know when you're going to get stuck.
If you've got loads of them.
No, I've just got one, but I make sure fastidiously it's always at 100% when I set off.
Yeah. Absolutely. How many have you got?
It's
Loads.
Yeah, I've got 3.
yeah, I've got quite a few as well, but in the ones in the car don't tend to be that effective. Do you find they're a little bit slow?
Yeah.
Do you find that?
Do you use maps on your phone though when you're in your car?
Yes, I do.
That drains the battery.
Yeah, it does drain. Yeah, I guess I imagine it does.
there you go, Eden.
Yeah, that's my tip for the day, I suppose.
For you.
Yeah.
My big tip's always been is the baby wipes now, and you have to.
You've got me onto something now. I feel like I'm missing out.
You have to use ones that are eco-friendly now.
Yeah.
That will deteriorate over time. But my big tip is put them in the freezer first.
What? Why?
What?
Yeah.
What?
Because then they're frozen and they're gorgeous and they're nice to use.
Oh, and then you put it on your face.
Yeah. Or anything else. They're really, really good frozen.
Well, there you go. I might need to give this a go.
No, that's absolutely. It's
I'm packing my
bank
car as well.
holiday.
Thank you, Anne Diamond.
Yeah,
very, very helpful.
Yeah.
Do let us know, what are you packing for your bank holiday weekend? What goes into your bag first?
Yes. What's the absolutely most important things?
Your essential items, please. Let us know.
But I tell you, a bunch of people who aren't going on holiday, or at least Keir Starmer appears to not be going on holiday. They've got too much to deal with, haven't they, at the moment? It may seem like ancient history or just a flash in time, but no matter how you look at it, Keir Starmer today celebrates,
Did you say that?
marks 50 days as Prime Minister.
Well, what a busy 50 days it's been for the Prime Minister, with renewed pressure this week over his government's decision to scrap winter fuel payments.
Yeah, a lot of the headlines are sort of suggesting that they are feeling the heat of scrapping the heat for other people in the country. Joining us now, political commentator Peter Spencer. Good morning, Peter. How do you rate Keir Starmer's first 50 days as Prime Minister?
Well, he has at least outlived the letters, which I think is a good sign. But when it comes to how things are looking for him, I mean, he's been on a very, very steep learning curve indeed to discover it's a mere twinkling of an eye between the moment that the Conservatives are completely rubbish, we've got to get rid of them, and the only solution is to elect a Labour government, to the Labour government is the government, and the Labour government is rubbish. They're just as bad as the Tories. And I mean, sort of, it seems only yesterday that a week in politics was a long time, but these days I reckon 10 minutes pretty well does it. And indeed, you've just referenced the problem of the winter fuel allowance. And indeed, of course, the energy cap has just gone up. And to find that the government is already in a bind with people about the fact that about the fear, I should say, that there's going to be loads of old people dying of cold or whatever in the coming months, puts into very, very sharp relief just what a tough job Keir Starmer has on his hands. And remember, that is just for starters. Consider the fact that the latest tranche of financial information suggests that the British economy is on an even worse trajectory than we thought. And so Rachel Reeves, who was, until it seems only yesterday, the darling of the city, because former Bank of England economist, she knows how to run things. Well, there's going to be a budget in October, and I would suggest that the winter fuel allowance is just for starters. And having been lauded as being the salvation of the nation, she's going to turn into a hate figure pretty much within minutes. Don't envy her. I do have to say that there are distinct arguments against winning general elections.
Difficult decisions are coming in October. Do you think that the Labour Party are going to stick to their guns with this one in terms of winter fuel payment, or do you think we could see a U-turn? Because reports in the Times this morning, Rachel Reeves has been warned that there's widespread support for a U-turn from those in her party.
Yes, indeed, that is very much the case, and that is a real worry. I mean, it is a huge problem. It is a problem, of course, that besets any government. If you come up with an idea which becomes unpopular, do you stick by it and become even more unpopular, or do you reverse it and look as if you haven't got a clue how to, how you couldn't run an orgy in a brothel, frankly, because of the fact you don't know which way you're going at any given point. You look weak, basically. I mean, what we've seen, moving on to, for example, after the riots, the racist riots, and Keir Starmer played a blinder in saying, right, snatch them up, bang them up, problem solved, and indeed it did nip it in the bud. But it revealed the fact that, or put into very sharp relief, the fact that the crisis within our prisons, writ very large by the fact that the New Deal to create space in prisons means that people are going to be released after 40% rather than half of their sentence. Well, that's not going to kick in for a while. And so magistrates have been told, don't put anyone behind bars for the next few weeks because there is nowhere to put them. I mean, yeah, Keir Starmer, we note, missed out on his summer holiday. I'm sure that the kids were spitting nails about that. But I think it was probably a good call because he does need to be seen to be everywhere, doing everything all at once. Otherwise, he will lose momentum pretty much overnight.
Yes, it's well, he wanted the job, didn't he? So there you go. Peter, thank you very much indeed. Lots more to talk about in coming days, I'm sure.
Yeah, totally different job, though, being in government than it is being in
saying
opposition.
how you want to be in government.
Yes.
Yes, I
it's
know.
a much
But
more difficult job.
50 days. What do you think? What's your verdict on how he's done? Let us know.
Now, at 11 minutes past 6, travellers are being warned to expect widespread disruption this bank holiday weekend as delays and congestion are predicted across key roads and rail routes.
Well, it is a bank holiday.
Yeah.
Airports are expecting more than 2 million people through their doors on what is predicted to be the busiest weekend for travel this year.
Well, to help us navigate our way through the predicted chaos on our roads and in our airports, travel correspondent at the Independent, Simon Calder, joins us now. Very good morning to you, Simon. It's going to be chaos, as usual, this bank holiday is what we're being told.
Unfortunately, it began actually very badly for an awful lot of people. Yesterday, the Friday before a bank holiday weekend, does always seem to spell travel-mageddon, and particularly if you were going by train, wherever you looked, there were problems. Of course, Storm Lillian, which now seems to have sort of blown through, loads and loads of fallen trees everywhere, particularly in Wales, northwest England. Halfway through the afternoon, Northern Trains just said, do not travel. We cannot run a reliable service. East Coast Main Line blocked because something was in the wires between Doncaster and York, and a problem which is going to continue right through the weekend is the Honiton Tunnel, which is on the lovely line which goes from London Waterloo to Exeter in Devon.
Which is very beautiful, actually, on a good day.
It is. It's absolutely beautiful, but it's also closed. And so, therefore, that's not going to be working.
Why?
Because they've got mud slip. And they're cleaning out the mud, but it's going to take them quite some time. So we've now moved from the, oh, my goodness, it's a storm, everything's shut down, to, well, we knew these things were going to shut down, and now we're on to the planned engineering work, which still happens at bank holidays, even though arguably more people are travelling at bank holidays than do, for instance, on Mondays, which is the really quiet day now because half the people don't commute like they used to. So the biggest problems are on the East Coast Main Line. From about 8 o'clock this evening, they're going to close the London end of this line, which runs to Yorkshire, North East England and Scotland. It's going to stay closed until Monday morning. Some trains will be running as far south as lovely St Neots in Cambridgeshire, where you can get on a bus and then you can go to Bedford and then you can catch the train to St Pancras, which is quite close to King's Cross, which might have been where you were trying to get to. Lots of people actually in Edinburgh for the festival who are trying to head back and are going to have some interesting times. They might think, well, that's no problem, I'll go on the West Coast Main Line.
And?
Unfortunately, lots of work, can you believe it, at the Euston end of this line, which goes to the West Midlands, North West England and Scotland, to do with HS2, even though HS2 won't be along for a couple of decades in Euston. And so they're closing a lot of lines there, reduced services, and then various other points along the line there's work. And if you're thinking, well, can't get to Scotland, well, hang on. If you're thinking you can't go to Scotland, let's go to beautiful Wales, and you're thinking of going from Paddington Station in London, well, you're going to have a very pretty journey on your way to Cardiff and Swansea because you're going to be going to Gloucester since the Severn Tunnel junction is closed. So, yeah, wherever you're going, it's...
So you go to Wales, you're going to go up into Gloucester in the middle and then down, so you don't have to go over the bridge.
But you're not going to be getting on a bus, which a lot of people will like. Sorry, the train normally goes in a tunnel, but they've closed that. So it's going to be quite scenic and it's going to take about an hour longer.
Oh, joy.
Yeah.
Well, that's, as I said, a bank holiday. But, I mean, are we the only country that get this so badly wrong all at once?
You should see what's going on in Germany. It's an absolute mess. You would think, yep, German efficiency, it's all going to be great. German rail is in a right old mess. I mean, I'm
surprised. I would have thought they would be absolutely
Very efficient, yes.
My
that's a
last
good word.
journey, I gave up and I ended up hitchhiking. Because it's the only way I was going to... I faced with a 3-hour wait, or do I hitchhike? It was very nice.
Who did you end up with in the car?
With a chimney sweep. Can you believe it? A German female chimney sweep.
That's a great story.
Yeah,
It's
quite a
nice of
dusty
her
old
to
car.
pick you up.
But, yeah,
She had
anyway.
no idea who you were.
Anyway, but thank you for asking. Anyway, you mentioned the
If
road.
she said, "Why are you hitchhiking?" you would have said, "Oh, well."
I'm TV's Simon Calder.
Yes.
Well,
And I'm on an adventure.
no, anyway, so that helped. But obviously, hitchhiking is not for everybody.
No.
So, it's all right for me.
But you're setting off by road today.
No, no.
No,
I
you're
don't
not.
have a car,
Oh.
but I do know about the roads. I'm
Sorry, you don't have a car.
I don't have a car. Never had a car.
You rely on public
Yeah,
transport.
I can drive.
Oh,
I'm not
good.
very good.
Right. So how are you trying to get down to
I'm
the
going
West
to
Country?
catch the train.
Okay.
And your train's running?
Anything? Well, yeah, because it's the line which isn't affected to Exeter so far. We hope, but you never know. Anyway, but if I did have a car, I would be thinking, I really don't want to drive down the old A303 around the Stonehenge area because that's just absolute gridlock. I think it's actually going to be worse coming from west to east on Sunday, Monday. The time to avoid today, if you possibly can, is 10 till 1. Now, you're watching this, you got up early.
Get on the road.
Yeah, except they want to watch the programme.
Well, they can listen to it.
They can listen.
Yeah,
Very
okay.
good, Dan.
Yeah,
Very good.
good idea. Okay.
10 to 1. Actually, around lunchtime is the worst time to travel.
Well, just because you've got so many people, you've got a combination of people who are just going to the nearest out of town superstore, and you've got people who have got up, had breakfast, watched GB News, think, OK, let's set off, and everybody kind of.
You should have,
Yes. Usual suspects, of course, the M25, particularly the western bit from the M40 around to Gatwick.
Yeah.
The M6, if you're heading north from the kind of Manchester, Liverpool area going up towards the Lake District, that is going to be busy. But those are the things we know about. And, of course, a prang can slow everything down. So you might be thinking, let's fly.
Go away for the weekend.
Go
How
on.
the airport's
Well,
running.
yesterday was supposed to be the busiest day of the year so far. I'm not sure that it was because we had a couple of dozen cancellations at Heathrow, British Airways flights, and that's because they have to slow down the arrivals rate because it's so windy, and British Airways, because it's got so many flights, it sort of says, OK, well, we'll cancel 20-something flights. So that slowed things down, and there's some poor people who were hoping that by now they would have been at home, switched on the TV, make a cup of tea, and they're still in Turkey because their EasyJet flight from Gatwick went out. They had to stop in Munich. I haven't figured out if it was an ill passenger or a disruptive passenger. Crew get to Turkey, have a look at their watch.
They've done their time.
We haven't got time to get back to Gatwick. But they spent all that time at the airport, and then they were told, sorry, tomorrow afternoon.
Oh, what a nightmare.
Yeah.
Simon.
Just don't travel.
Well,
Stay at home,
Yeah, there it
watch
is.
GB News,
Yes.
and
I
have
should
a
be-
nice cup of tea.
I'll
'cause
be
it's
very.
horrible outside
I'll
today.
be thrilled to just get home. I think today.
No, I think that's probably for the best.
Yeah.
I'm just going to have a cosy day indoors, I think, today.
I think
I
that's
was going to go on a long walk. No.
Duvet day.
Duvet day.
Today.
Day for it. So,
Simon, thank you very and good luck getting there.
Thank you.
yes, best of luck.
OK, at 18 minutes past 6, let's have a look at some of the other stories that are coming into the newsroom this morning.
A major manhunt is underway in Germany after a stabbing spree at a festival, leaving 3 people dead and 5 people seriously injured. Police have declared a major incident in the western city of Solingen after a man is said to have begun attacking passers-by at random just before 10 p.m. local time last night. The industrial city was celebrating 650 years since it was founded.
Former footballer and BBC presenter Jermaine Jenas says he is ashamed and deeply sorry as he's admitted to sending inappropriate messages to a female colleague. The 41-year-old, who's actually been married for 13 years, I think got 4 children, told the Sun newspaper that he's let down his family, friends and colleagues and the women involved, and he's now seeking help. Despite the scandal, he insists he's done nothing illegal, claiming the exchanges were between consenting adults.
This is completely on me. I am 100% in the wrong, and I accept full responsibility for that. And it's something that obviously I need to address and look at myself. The family situation is the thing is at the forefront of my mind that I'm trying to just piece back together. But I've also got to be able to kind of look myself in the mirror and understand where I've gone wrong, and understand that this is on me, it's not anybody else, there's nobody else to blame here.
Over to the US, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says he's suspending his independent presidential bid and will instead back Donald Trump. Some of his family say the decision is a betrayal of their values, calling it a sad ending to a sad story. But the nephew of the former President, JFK, believes that his presence in the race would help Democratic nominee Kamala Harris.
How did the Democratic Party choose a candidate that has never done an interview or debate during the entire election cycle? We know the answers. They did it by weaponizing the government agencies. They did it by abandoning democracy. They did it by suing the opposition and by disenfranchising American voters.
But it's very interesting because I've been watching the Democratic convention all week. Yeah. I've been completely binging on it. And, I mean, there's no doubt Kamala is doing well at the moment. I mean, it's always debatable whether she's doing better than Trump at the moment. Depends which
Very
poll.
tight, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But will JFK endorsement and possibly then the people who were supporting him, will they go to Trump? And would that change things, change the dynamic yet again?
I wonder what it means for the Trump camp if you've got someone like JFK endorsing him. I mean, it must look good. The optics are good.
That somebody major with a major name.
Yeah. And Trump saying last night, "I'm so proud of you, Bobby, and your uncle would be so proud of you as well."
I don't know whether he would, though.
I don't know if he would be.
No, because the wider Kennedy family have sort of made it known that they don't approve at all.
No, not at all.
Doing.
No, Kerry Kennedy, who's one of Robert F. Kennedy's sisters, said that it was obscene and that her father would detested almost everything that Donald Trump stands for. So they're not very happy with him at all.
But does it change the dynamic? The dynamic in America at the moment is fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. Well, there's so much momentum behind Kamala Harris, and we were just talking about it before we came on air. We didn't really know her. I mean, she was famous, but we didn't know her at all, did we? So it's been...
Well, it's because vice presidents are never really given a chance to shine,
They're not meant to, are they?
I mean, Biden was vice president for 8 years, and I didn't really know what he was about at all until he became president. And now Kamala's coming out. And my goodness, and they put on a good show.
Yes.
Mind you, they've got a lot of former presidents to come out and do big, rousing speeches. And
it's very American, isn't it? It's a big stadium and celebrities come out and the families come out.
And it's all about joy. And what are the other buzzwords? You can hear the buzz phrases because all of the speakers came out with the same buzz phrases.
Yeah, and being together and unity for America and all that.
Yeah,
anyway.
And what amazing attorney she's been. I mean, we thought, I didn't know that. I knew she'd been an attorney general, but I don't know. It's interesting, isn't it?
The speed of it is absolutely fascinating, and also the hypocrisy, because a lot of people that are now lauding her as this incredible person who's going to make the best president the US has ever seen, were also being really critical of her time as VP, saying she didn't do a very good job as border czar.
I know.
So what's happened in the space of a few weeks?
Yeah. So what do you think, I wonder, do you think RFK Jr. And his sort of defection, if you like, to the Trump camp.
Yes.
Do you think that could swing things in Trump's favour all over again?
Yeah, could it be a game changer? Let us know. gbnews.com/you'll say.
Now, it's not an easy task to get primary school children talking about recycling. In fact, it's a very difficult task to get lots of adults talking about it too.
It's true.
But Sandwell Council in the West Midlands think they might have just cracked it because hundreds of kids have now entered a competition over the last few weeks to come up with a name for each of their 12 new recycling lorries. And our West Midlands reporter, Jack Carson, has been along to meet the winners.
What do you get when you ask a bunch of school children to name your new fleet of recycling lorries? The answer is genius. From Wheelie Wonka to Binderella, Recyclosaurus Rex to Binbo Baggins, these newly named trucks will be hitting Sandwell's roads and collecting recyclable waste in the next few months. Cabinet member for Highways and Environment at Sandwell Council, Keith Alcock, says the competition to name the trucks has started a conversation in the community.
It's very important we keep recycling rates going up. We all know it's good for the environment, and it's also good for Sandwell Council in terms of its finances. General disposal costs are going up higher and higher. Recycling is a way of keeping the costs down. So it's very important to get this engagement, and hopefully with over 200 conversations being held in households, we started that wider conversation.
The 12 winners of the competition and their families were invited to a special event this week to see their newly named lorries up close and even have a go at loading them themselves.
I feel proud. I feel amazing. I was thinking of it on Star Wars, and I know that was a famous character.
Do you know what? It's been brilliant. It's been really great to be part of this kind of scheme for Sandwell. Boston's a real black country name, so we come up with that straight away. We're black country born and bred, and you know, recycling is really important, so it's fantastic to give this to the younger generation, to see our name on one of these recycling bins in our street.
Because we recycle and we see them, and it's big, so we call it Rex.
So what's the name?
Recyclosaurus Rex.
There you go.
Statistics published by the government in January showed England's recycling rate fell by 0.8 percentage points to 43.3% in 2022-23. For senior contract manager at Serco, Tony Marston, that makes education about waste even more important.
It's a shame that we've got so much waste in the industry and in this country, and we need to make sure that we dispose of it properly, and less goes to landfill and less goes to incineration. The most we can recycle, the better.
Sandwell Council say the competition has been a valuable opportunity to teach young people in the community about recycling, as well as being really fun too. Jack Carson, GB News, Sandwell.
Nice.
Very
That
good,
was and what a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
I like the one I liked best is Obi-Wan Benobi.
Yeah, you like that one. I like Binderella.
Binderella's good.
Binderella's very, very good. But I also like Lord of the Bins.
Yeah,
and
Binbo
Wheelie
Baggins.
Wonka.
Wheelie Wonka.
That's a good one, right?
And Recyclosaurus Rex. It's a good one. What a great idea.
It's a very good idea. Well, we're engaged, aren't we? So you can see why children would.
It's got me more excited about recycling than I've ever felt about recycling, because I've got so many stupid bins and.
Well, I was asking you just how many bins you had.
Yeah.
Because there's a story this week that somewhere in the Cotswolds, they've got 10 bins, 10 recycling bins. And it's just too many.
Well, it's too many, but it also changes the look of a street, doesn't it? Because, I mean, they just dominate the whole look.
I know.
And then if it's very windy, as it is at the moment, they get tipped over and everything goes
my
all over
bin
the
was,
place.
I was looking out the window the other day just watching my bin fly around.
Oh.
I was like, that's annoying.
It's not the right way to do it for me, I think. Just because, A, they're made of plastic, aren't they?
Yes.
So that's generating a whole load of plastic.
That's a good point.
And I don't know, I just think they look horrible. There has to be a better way of recycling than just filling up our streets with bins.
Well, in Europe, you get super bins, don't you? So but then you have to get it there. But you go to somewhere in the town and there's these super bins that are built deep into the ground, and then you just throw it all in there. So you've got nothing outside your house.
Oh,
but then you do have to walk down to the
first?
super bin.
You have to sort it
and
first.
walk down to the super bin. But at least it's out the way. Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say.
OK, at 6:28, should we catch up with the weather? Here's Aidan McGivern.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. Staying cool and blustery this weekend, still some rain around, but also some sunshine. It's not going to rain everywhere all the time, but there will be a lot of rain around this morning for the Midlands, East Anglia, the south and southeast. And in fact, for the southeast of England, that rain, several hours of heavy rain, could cause some issues, localised flooding, transport disruption. It does slowly peel away during the early part of the afternoon, followed by bright spells, but also frequent showers into the afternoon. So it's going to feel cool with a gusty breeze, especially towards the northwest of the UK. Unseasonably cool with temperatures in the mid to high teens in many places. The evening brings further showers into the Midlands, the south and southeast of England, heavy downpours. Brighter skies, I think, for Wales and the southwest. Still a few showers, but otherwise mostly fine. And for northern England, a generally fine end to the day with some decent sunshine. Further showers to come for Northern Ireland, as well as western Scotland, even some more prolonged rain at times, accompanied by that gusty wind. But some good shelter there for eastern Scotland, with some late sunshine expected. Clearing skies overnight as finally any showers move away from the southeast, but further showers will arrive into western and northern parts of the country. These will be lighter and fewer compared with the daytime, and there'll be a decent chance of lighter winds and lengthy clear spells, leading to a cool start to Sunday with temperatures in the high single figures in some places. Further wet and breezy conditions arrive into Northern Ireland, western Scotland, Wales and the northwest during Sunday morning. I'd say it's a damp day for many on Sunday, with those outbreaks of rain moving east, but drier and brighter towards the southeast, mostly dry here, and some brighter weather for the far north of Scotland later on. Again, a cool day with a gusty wind, highs of 20 Celsius.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, some good news this morning, because the weather is a bit dismal, isn't it?
It's not as good as it should be.
It's not great, is it? But there is still time in the Great British Giveaway. You've got that, yeah? And your chance to win £30,000 in cash.
Yeah, you've got to hurry, though, because apparently it's running out any minute now, isn't it? I think it's 5 p.m. this Friday.
Precisely.
Is your last chance to be in it to win it. Here's how.
It's the final week to see how you could win an incredible £30,000 in cash. It's extra cash that could really make a difference to your coming year. You could find yourself on that holiday you've always wanted to take, buy that treat that always seemed out of reach, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. Time is ticking. Get your entry in now. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck, and don't remember, you've got to join. There's a little fly that keeps crossing the camera. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, he's up there now. He's just looping around.
But well, I was going to say, is it the same one? Because in a few minutes he'll do it again.
I think he is just looping the desk.
Sorry, these are the things that take
very
up our time and
irritating.
trouble. Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, very, very good luck with that. 5 o'clock Friday. Oh, no, he's going the other way now. Right, OK. Still to come, we are going to be going through the papers in a few moments, but first of all, sport. You're watching GB News Breakfast.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Michael found the recipe for success without going to university. Instead, he went looking for answers inside of a kitchen. The 22-year-old has just finished a level 2 course in professional cookery at UCB, a college in Birmingham.
When I started UCB, I was expecting to be so intense from day one, but it's not. It sort of builds up, so to the point where you get comfortable. And building that comfort is a huge part of becoming a chef, because you need to be comfortable being in your own skin.
This week, tens of thousands of students get their A-level results. The college wants them to remember university isn't the only option after school, and West Midlands Mayor Richard Parker agrees.
university is the right route for lots of our young people, but there are other pathways to getting access to qualifications that will give young people the skills they need to succeed in life.
Further education principal Rosa Wells says apprenticeships and technical courses are also great routes to a career.
Here at University College Birmingham, we offer vocational courses. These are hands-on technical courses that can give people a different opportunity, something different to school. So we've got brilliant facilities that really give students industry standard training.
A skills shortage across the UK means youngsters learning trades are desperately needed. 36% of job vacancies are due to shortages. The Labour government's new body, Skills England, has been created to bring training providers and businesses together with local and national authorities plus unions to target trade gaps and regional requirements. Michael's now finishing his qualification. Where he goes next is down to him.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Just sharing my lip gloss with Anne there. Do you like it? It looks nice.
We were talking about essential items to take when you're travelling.
Yes.
Aidan's with us to do the sport, but you can't do it yet because we're talking about this.
Looks good, Anne. It's starting to show.
Essential items to take with you when you're going off on a journey, as most people are going to try to do, to get away for the bank holiday. And Ellie has got a phone case that's got a special groove to take her lip gloss. I can't believe somebody thought of designing
It's actually really handy, and I forget that, especially in this job, when you always need a little top-up, just like you've just had. Lovely, it's always there. Handy, isn't it?
Fascinating.
It doesn't feel very nice, I feel it. It's clunky. Feel it.
And it's specifically...
Drop that and it wouldn't break.
It's specifically for lip gloss, not like super glue or any other tube-related matter.
It's actually made for that bit.
Oh, I see.
In this job, it's actually quite handy.
Oh, I see. So it's made by the same company who make the magnificent.
There you are.
Yeah.
I find it quite useful in this job, but people actually stop me in the street over there and they're like, what is that?
Yes, it's weird.
So no, no.
All right, I suppose we should talk about sport. What do you want to kick off with?
I think there's only one place to start, actually. Front page of The Sun, Jermaine Jenas, the former footballer, current, well, until this week, until Thursday, One Show presenter, Match of the Day presenter as well. He has, well, I mean, I'll take you back to what happened earlier in the week. On Thursday, it was announced while he was on air on Talk Sport that he would be losing his job at the BBC on all platforms.
Well, they sacked him summarily, didn't they? They
did. It was the guy who's recently taken over BBC Sport sent out the email to everybody. It was sent from his phone, which was a little bit, don't know, not sure if it's right.
That suggests how quickly this all happened, Aidan, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It does. It was done online, apparently, and apparently it was said that although it was dramatically presented as if he found out on air, he didn't know about it prior to this on Thursday. But you know, that's I can't really see how he gets back from this. I mean, he says that I'm sorry to my wife. That when I texted, he said it was nothing illegal. He said it was consensual. It was stemmed from a boozy party that had the BBC some weeks or months ago. And he said he's having therapy to help his what he calls his self-destructive behaviour. So, look, as I say, I just find it difficult to see where he can go from here. I don't see a way back, because I think that once you're tarnished in that way, a broadcaster can maybe say to you later on, OK, well, what's the risk here? What's the risk of taking somebody on? They'll probably go with someone lower risk.
Yeah.
And say for all the aggravation this could cause, just bringing him back. And is he good enough? I mean, you know, I knew him. I knew him very well, probably 10, 12 years ago. I was probably one of the people who brought him into TV before anybody else. He had done punditry work. But when I was at Sky, he was winding down his playing career. I felt he chucked in his playing career, actually. I felt he could have done more.
Not too early.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he made his debut for England the night Wayne Rooney made his debut. I covered it in 2003 at Upton Park, and he had a glittering career ahead of him. Look, he achieved plenty, but I felt he could have done a little bit more. I think he probably had an eye to television. He launched this foundation called the Aquinas Foundation. We went around a couple of schools. We went to the Bulwell Academy in Nottingham together. We got on very well. Paths drifted because he went the BBC route. If you'd said to me back then that he would have the career that he'd have on the One Show as one of the most celebrated names on the BBC, I'd have said that was highly unlikely. But credit to him, he did well.
Very personable, very good-looking young man.
Yes,
and
exactly.
as you say, has done a lot of work with kids in football and things like that.
Yes.
And women's football. He's been a champion
absolutely. He's been
of
a big proponent of that. But as I say,
it's all wrecked now.
I know. Look, this is. I mean, we said off camera, didn't we? The reason he's done it for with the Sun is because he's. I mean, people say he sold his story. I think it was highly unlikely. I think he's placed it there in a bid to mitigate some of the damage. So he feels there's a way back.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, Aidan? Because the narrative seems to have changed from him. Do you remember when it first broke and he was live on air?
Yes.
And he's speaking on the radio saying, look, he's really unhappy about this.
It was such a car crash interview, wasn't it? Did you hear? It sounded like a police interview. The TalkSport were like, oh, we've got him in the building, better make the most of it. But he couldn't say anything.
Couldn't say anything, yeah. But he didn't deny anything. He just said he's really angry.
Well, it's difficult to deny.
And more's going to be said. But then we get this on the front page of The Sun, this great teary-eyed... Please do, it's going to go flying. Thank you. We've got this teary-eyed exclusive interview with The Sun where he's saying it's all my fault.
Yeah, we can hear some... I mean, I think we can hear some of the footage, actually. We can hear it in the next few seconds of what Jermaine Jenas said to The Sun. We'll hear that now.
This is completely on me. I am 100% in the wrong and I accept full responsibility for that.
Yeah, so it's where from here. He's had a chat with his PR team, I would imagine. This is what normally happens.
But his agency have dropped him.
His agency have dropped him, but there'll still be somebody willing to step in and do crisis management. That's what happens with footballers. The other way of looking at it cynically is maybe they thought he'd served his time with the channel. Maybe they thought his time was up.
No, I think they're just terribly, terribly sensitive now after the Hugh Edwards saga.
Yeah.
I think the BBC need to be... Everybody said, why didn't the BBC act sooner? Why did they...
But they're all indispensable.
And I think now they will be...
They're all dispensable.
Well, exactly. They'll be trying to make the point that no personality is bigger than the BBC, and the BBC will take immediate action now if they hear anything.
Yeah, and... I mean,
I think the fact that he's done an interview with The Sun, though, is very interesting because people tend to do that sort of thing when The Sun... Usually if The Sun have got something more as well.
Yeah,
the only way to shut it down is to actually give them an exclusive.
Yes, indeed. But I just think...
Somebody's convinced him
in the last 48 hours that there's a way out of this.
Yeah.
Presumably somebody's taking money to try and manage this crisis, as it were.
Yeah, if you fess up and take responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. It's the old kiss and tell terms of engagement, isn't it, from 20, 30 years ago.
And, you know, it only happened between consenting adults.
Yes.
And
all the lines were there, weren't they?
He is considering suing the BBC as well.
Oh.
We should say that. But there is contrition here, at the very least. And, look, who knows? It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. If he comes back... It could set a precedent for everything else. Everything else.
Any contract you do, especially with the BBC, but usually with any media company now, there is always a clause about not bringing the company into disrepute.
Yes. And so he's a freelance. When as it pertains to his one-show work, he's freelance, so he's automatically more dispensable.
Yeah.
Than I don't think his contract. He was fancied to take over his match of the day.
Gary Lineker, that's all gone now, isn't it?
And so I personally, I didn't think he'd done enough in his career to warrant top billing on a match of the day, to be honest with you. I think he could have done more. And there are players out there who achieved more than he did, who should be on top of the bill.
Who's got that sort of personality? Who's sort of waiting in the wings?
It's difficult to know because the players of the last 10, 20 years, or the last 5, 10 years have been media trained to such a great extent that it's difficult to see their personality. Suddenly they come out of their shell as soon as their career's over and they need to make a living out of it. But he's on I think the one-show contract was worth 180 grand a year. I mean, he would have made, at his peak, he would have made 40, 50 grand a week. So,
wow.
So it's not the money he was on.
All right, Ed, we're out of time, I'm afraid. We'll do sport, all the sports stories, Premier League fixtures and the like in the next hour.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Newspapers coming up.
It can wait.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I want to see a flagpole and I want to see the Union Jack when it's necessary. I must say I don't want to see some other flags maybe, but that's my opinion. I'm classed as a dinosaur, I'm an oldie. So, I go for what I want to know.
Well, you're not a dinosaur in our books. What would you say to the people who were complaining about the Union flag and saying that it's a sign of national. What's your response to them?
Well, in this village, best thing is for them to get out of it. I'm being quite blunt. That's how I feel. I've lived in this village 60-odd years, 62 years, nearly 63 years. We've never had this problem. In our early days, we all helped each other. No one went against anybody. We agreed things. We used to have meetings up the village hall, as it was then. And it was all OK, but all of a sudden we've got newcomers coming in, and I'm not against it because we've got quite a few, and a lot of them are damn nice people, but we've just got one or two who are a bit anti. And, you know, they don't do nothing much for the village, but they soon put the spoke in when we want to do something like that. That's my feeling.
But you think we should be proud of our national symbols, proud of our national flag?
Definitely, yeah. I was in the army. I only did national service, and when I finished national service, I was ill for a while actually. But anyhow, and then I went and joined the prison service, and that's how I've worked in things which, you know, the flag is important to us. We should always be proud of it. Not like these people that say we shouldn't have it because it might upset somebody because it's not their flag. Well, so what? You know, it's our flag, so we should be proud of it. Sod the rest of them. Let's excuse my... but that's me.
The People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to Breakfast. 6:46, you're watching GB News Breakfast with Ellie and Anne this morning.
Yes, and we're going through the papers now with Candice Holdsworth and Emma Wolfe. Really good to see you both this morning. Emma, let's start with you, shall we? And look at the front page of the Times. And this is Rachel Reeves feeling the heat over winter fuel benefit cuts.
Indeed. So we've seen this sort of ongoing, mounting furore, really, over the decision to cut winter fuel allowance for those pensioners who aren't on benefits. And it can be worth up to around £300 for the over 80s. And now it seems that she's kind of feeling the heat, I should say, even within her own party. There are MPs privately saying that they may well rebel against this. There are ministers actually coming out and saying, you know, this is not acceptable. They're expressing deep concern at the impact of this. And it comes at a really bad time. The energy regulator have announced this. The energy price cap is rising again. So that'll be another £149 a year on average from the start of October. I think a lot of people are looking forward to the winter and thinking, my goodness, not only are their bills going to be going up by £150 a year, but they're also going to be having that winter fuel allowance withdrawn. And of course, there's the argument that lots and lots of pensioners are quite well off enough to pay for it without. But there is a way of sending it back. People have done this. People have sent back their winter fuel allowance. They could donate it to charity. There are other ways around this, rather than simply cutting it for people who actually really do need it.
Well, it's a double whammy now, isn't it, for pensioners? And we're looking at £450 a year, which to a lot of people is an awful lot of money.
And not what you'd expect from a Labour government. Really.
No.
And that was the shock.
I think that they've really been taken aback by this, and also the accusations that they've prioritised public sector pay over pensioners. And I think the thing that they've failed to understand is that, yes, there are plenty of wealthy pensioners. There are also those that receive benefits, but there are also those in between who operate on very thin margins. And if you cut this is going to really land them in a lot of trouble. And there have been so many calling into radio stations, for instance, expressing their anger at this, and they can't believe that a Labour government has done it. This is why they vote Labour. I wonder, though, if Labour has the political capital to reverse it, though. I think that would be a very difficult
case. It takes a lot of courage at this stage to do a U-turn.
It does, but I also think with reports like this, where you've got a lot of MPs and ministers themselves within the party talking about their concern, I think it would be a popular move. Yeah, it's always painful doing a U-turn, another U-turn, but it wasn't a manifesto promise. In fact, the other way round, it was, you know, many times over the years, Labour have talked about the cruelty towards pensioners. I think pensioners, it's obvious that so many of them are vulnerable. And as you say, those people in the middle who maybe... Or maybe can't apply for the means-tested benefits. It's quite complicated. Everything is online. I know plenty of older people who just go, oh, gosh, I don't even know how to start with all that stuff online. So, you know, there are going to be people who are going to suffer. I think it would be popular, actually, to do a U-turn to reverse this cut.
And now they could actually do it and save face, because they're at the start of their term.
They've got, Tories.
Yeah, they've got 5 years. I mean, now would be the time to push out these controversial policies, which we've literally seen with this cut in the first place. But they could also just U-turn and just say, look, we weren't aware of the backlash. We're now
and they could blame it on the energy price. Exactly.
Yeah, and you could save face and still make a U-turn.
I think Rachel Reeves, trying to be fiscally constrained, she's going to really struggle. I think the times we live in, I think people are relying more and more on the government, and I think she's going to find it hard to get the deficit down as well. She's going to have a lot of spending commitments.
Well, then there are big questions about the, as you say, open checkbook for the unions then.
Yeah, and
if
the question on many people's lips is, who are you prioritising? Labour?
And it was such it all happened in that last week, and it was such a stark kind of, hang on a minute, train drivers sitting in warm cabs who are pretty well paid, and I'm not saying they don't do a good job, but, you know, train drivers are getting this, and at the same time you're cutting that on for pensioners.
It's almost as though
very
you just
bad
get this
look.
feeling that they've always looked upon pensioners as Tory-type pensioners, people who've saved up and got lots of money. And, of course, that's absolutely not the way.
No, it's also people talk about them living in million-pound houses.
Yeah.
But what they don't realise is that you can be asset-rich but cash-poor.
Yeah.
So you've lived in that house for 30, 40 years, it's increased in value, but you don't actually earn very much. And it's such a misperception, that.
No, it definitely is. Do let us know what you think about that. We know you'll have an opinion. gbnews.com/you'll say. Candice, should we look at the Daily Mail? We've been talking about this morning. RFK Jr. Backs Trump as he abandons his own presidential race.
Yes.
It's a bit of a shocker, isn't it?
Yeah. So this is such an interesting story in the Daily Mail. So RF Kennedy Jr., he's now claiming he's suspended his presidential campaign, and he has backed Donald Trump because he said that he doesn't want to split the Democratic vote and hand the victory to Kamala Harris. And you think, hang on a minute, a fellow Democrat, why is this? Well, I think there is a lot of bitterness amongst some within the Democratic Party for the way that she came to power. They believe it was a palace coup, that Biden was forced out, there wasn't any debate, and they think that she's not a great candidate.
So is this going to change the dynamic of the presidential race? Does this put Trump ahead, or well ahead, of Kamala?
Well, apparently they're tied in the key battleground states. So if you look at places like Michigan, North Carolina, all the places that Trump won in 2016, he's quite neck and neck with Kamala Harris in these states. And I mean, that's how it was in 2020 as well. And you just wonder, is this going to be another presidential race that comes absolutely down to the wire?
I tell you what, we've got a short clip here of Trump and RFK, I think, what they were saying overnight at a rally.
His candidacy has inspired millions and millions of Americans, raised critical issues that have been too long ignored in this country, and brought together people from across the political spectrum in a positive campaign grounded in the American values of his father, Robert Kennedy, a great man, and his uncle, President John F. Kennedy. And I know that they are looking down right now, and they are very, very proud of Bobby. I'm proud of Bobby. You want to know the truth?
Well, he's obviously very, very pleased to have the Kennedy name associated with him now. But I'm not sure the Kennedy family, the wider family, are very thrilled, are they?
Oh, no. I mean, they've all been very critical of him. I mean, he's sort of perceived as a total outsider. I mean, he does... I think one thing that Robert Kennedy Jr. does is he sort of attracts voters who are disillusioned from either party. So disillusioned Democrat voters and disillusioned Republican voters. People who are just tired of the establishment, as they call them, which is why he's backed Trump. Although I don't know if you could call Trump an anti-establishment figure anymore. I think he could claim that in 2016, but I'm not sure now.
Emma, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it's all to play for. I think that Kamala Harris has had that initial bounce because it was a relief. It was a relief to sort out the ongoing, you know, the car crash that was Biden. And I think, you know, she hasn't done badly and she's done a good job at the DNC, but actually she hasn't really, I don't think, yet been properly scrutinised.
No,
and I think
no
that
policy yet, has there?
There's been no interview.
Exactly, no direct sit-down interview. And vibes, you know, there's a great vibe around here, and they're not votes. Vibes are not votes.
OK, vibes are not votes.
Let's see.
Thank you very much.
At that, let's get up to date with the weather from Aidan McGivern.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. Staying cool and blustery this weekend, still some rain around, but also some sunshine. It's not going to rain everywhere all the time, but there will be a lot of rain around this morning for the Midlands, East Anglia, the south and southeast. And in fact, for the southeast of England, that rain, several hours of heavy rain, could cause some issues, localised flooding, transport disruption. It does slowly peel away during the early part of the afternoon, followed by bright spells, but also frequent showers into the afternoon. So it's going to feel cool with a gusty breeze, especially towards the northwest of the UK. Unseasonably cool with temperatures in the mid to high teens in many places. The evening brings further showers into the Midlands, the south and southeast of England, heavy downpours. Brighter skies, I think, for Wales and the southwest. Still a few showers, but otherwise mostly fine. And for northern England, a generally fine end to the day with some decent sunshine. Further showers to come for Northern Ireland, as well as western Scotland, even some more prolonged rain at times, accompanied by that gusty wind. But some good shelter there for eastern Scotland, with some late sunshine expected. Clearing skies overnight as finally any showers move away from the southeast, but further showers will arrive into western and northern parts of the country. These will be lighter and fewer compared with the daytime, and there'll be a decent chance of lighter winds and lengthy clear spells, leading to a cool start to Sunday with temperatures in the high single figures in some places. Further wet and breezy conditions arrive into Northern Ireland, western Scotland, Wales and the northwest during Sunday morning. I'd say it's a damp day for many on Sunday, with those outbreaks of rain moving east, but drier and brighter towards the southeast, mostly dry here, and some brighter weather for the far north of Scotland later on. Again, a cool day with a gusty wind, highs of 20 Celsius.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could win an incredible £30,000 in cash. It's extra cash that could really make a difference to your coming year. You could find yourself on that holiday you've always wanted to take, buy that treat that always seemed out of reach, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. Time is ticking. Get your entry in now. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Good morning. The Prime Minister and Chancellor are feeling the heat over winter fuel payments.
As the Labour peer condemns the government over their decision.
But will the government reverse that decision and do an historic U-turn?
Jermaine Jenas speaks out again as he apologises for the scandal which has seen him sacked by the BBC and dropped by his agency.
This is completely on me. I am 100% in the wrong and I accept full responsibility for that.
And as the final body is recovered from the sunken Bayesian superyacht, Italian authorities are preparing to reveal what may have caused the tragedy.
Robert Kennedy Jr. drops out of the race for president as he endorses Donald Trump, a move his famously Democratic family have labelled a betrayal of their values.
And face tattoos. Are they ever socially acceptable in the workplace? We'll be debating that one.
It's a bumper day of Premier League action as Pep Guardiola insists he wants a quick resolution to the 115 charges hanging over his Manchester City side. We'll hear about England's progress in the cricket, and in tennis we look ahead to the US Open.
It's a wet start to the bank holiday weekend for southern and southeastern parts of the UK, with further showers elsewhere. Will there be any brighter weather this weekend? I'll have the full details coming up soon.
It's just gone 1 minute past 7. I'm Ellie Costello.
And I'm Ann Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Aidan, you were sinking in your chair there, but I'm glad you've
I managed to pull it up at the last second. Yeah, it's good.
Very good.
I think the trick is to lean forward, I believe.
Oh, is it?
And it doesn't sink quite as much. But, we'll see. I've got a stool like this at home, though, because I'm used to it.
Oh.
Yeah, but it shouldn't happen.
No.
I mean, a lot of people have been getting in touch and saying, for heaven's sake, GB News, some decent chairs. I agree.
I feel like the room is cursed, though. I think the last chairs were doing exactly the same, so maybe this is just...
They were. It may just be overused.
Maybe normal people don't sit on the same chair for 4 hours in the morning. Maybe it's that.
They're nice and comfortable, though, I find. The cushions are quite...
Well, these are so comfortable you want to sit back in.
Yeah, you do.
Which isn't a good look, so try and look more alert.
I have to keep my sports updates sprightly so that you don't fall asleep.
No, it's actually really interesting, isn't it? Jermaine Jenas,
Yes.
all over the papers. It seems to be the story that everybody is talking about.
Without doubt, yeah. I mean, it's really grown legs in the last couple of days, although I'm not hugely surprised. I mean, he is, look, those who covered him in football remember somebody who, he had a decent career. He had played for some good clubs, Newcastle. I saw his England debut in 2003 at Upton Park, the same night as Wayne Rooney. But I felt he could have done more. And if you'd said to me 12 years ago that he'd have had the career he'd had in the media, I'd have been hugely surprised, if I'm honest with you. And he's a household name at the BBC. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. I think it just seems sad. I mean, I don't know anything about his football career, obviously, and I've never watched the One Show. But it just looks to me like a very nice young man has just completely
with a lovely
wrecked
family
his career.
Came from quite an austere beginnings as well.
A family can forgive, don't you think?
I don't know.
In the end, a family can forgive.
Time can heal. But he came from quite a humble background. I mean, he told me years ago that they used to fear knocks at the door when bailiffs used to come round to his mum's house, and they grew up in poverty. I saw him play for Nottingham Forest when he was 17. He had the world at his feet. But as I say, I just think that he could have had a slightly better career if he'd kind of dedicated himself a bit more towards the end.
We'll talk a bit more about him.
Absolutely.
Later on.
We'll have to, yeah.
Thanks, Aidan. Loads of you getting in touch this morning. Lots of you talking about the bank holiday. Philip, we've been talking about the best time to set off. Simon Calder was telling us not between 10 and 1. That's the busiest time.
Or just not.
or just stay at home, have a duvet day today, because it's raining all day anyway. Philip Jackson says, we used to set off at 3 a.m. to drive. We'd be there in time for breakfast. Very good.
Depends where you're going. But I remember that there was always... We lived in the Midlands, and there was always this long, slow move towards the southwest that would always go on those
M5?
major roads.
M5, was that?
No, we weren't far enough on to get the M5. You'd join it a bit later. So we'd do A34, I think, or is it A38, all the way down. And it would always be this incredibly long queue of very slow caravans.
Caravans, yes.
For 3 or 4 years, I lived used to divide myself between Manchester and London through the week. So I used to go up there twice a week. I used to travel. I used to leave about midnight sometimes.
Yeah.
So I could do
That's
London.
probably the way to do it,
It is, because it meant that I didn't... Once I hit... Especially if I was coming north to south, I would hit the bottom of the A1, or the bottom of the M2, or the M1, rather, and I could go through London, and you could save a few miles rather than go around the M25.
Yeah,
and in those days, there was no congestion charge in the middle of the night.
Yeah. June says, good morning, Anne, Ellie, Aidan, GB News staff and all of the lovely GB News viewers. Wishing everybody a very happy bank holiday weekend.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
There you go.
Oh, my viewers, lovely.
They are lovely.
We used to do that. Sorry, I was just remembering when we used to do this long caravan of a movement towards the south coast, or at least the southwest. And Birdlip Hill used to be between where we lived in the Midlands.
Did birds have lips?
I don't know, it's called Birdlip Hill. It's very famous. And honestly, it was one of those windy ones that... And behind 10 caravans, it takes forever. And then, woo, down the other side. And I remember we always used to dread Birdlip Hill. But the way my parents used to just bundle us all into the car at about 2 o'clock or something, 3 o'clock in the morning, and we'd set off in the dark.
Yeah.
But then you would at least have some hope of getting there.
Yeah, and you don't lose the first stage.
Sometimes, nowadays, I've noticed that a lot of the roadworks take place in the middle of the night, so it's not quite as simple.
I know,
it's true.
We've noticed those, don't we, coming in the morning.
Well, best of luck to you if you are heading out on the roads or
and
the rails
if you're already on
today.
the road and you're listening to us, it would be really nice to hear how you're going.
Yeah, gbnews.com/yoursay.
Now, it may seem like ancient history or a flash in time, but no matter how you look at it, Keir Starmer has now been Prime Minister for 50 days.
And what a busy 50 days it's been for him, with renewed pressure this week over his government's decision to scrap winter fuel payments.
Well, we're joined now by GB News' political correspondent, Olivia Utley. Morning, Olivia. We are all wondering, and we've been debating in the last hour, do you think Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer have got the courage to declare this was a bad idea, let's do a U-turn over the winter fuel payments?
Well, that is just the million-dollar question, isn't it? They are under huge pressure now to scrap that idea, to make winter fuel payments means tested, meaning that about 10 million pensioners will lose out this winter. You've got people like Martin Lewis, the personal finance guru. You've got Labour bigwigs, ex-Labour bigwigs like John McDonnell, who lost the whip. Jeremy Corbyn's shadow chancellor, of course, who lost the whip over rebelling on the two-child benefits. He's saying that the government needs to U-turn on this. Then you've got Conservative peers as well. And it's no surprise, really. The fact that that gas bills have gone up is going to affect pensioners really, really badly. As we know, pensioners obviously tend to spend more time at home than working people who are out at work during the day. They suffer more from the cold. And if we were to have a cold snap this winter, that could be a sort of perfect storm. Last time time when energy bills went up. And it must be said, last time they did go up by a lot more than this time. We had a relatively mild winter, which sort of mitigated the effects, but it could be very, very different this time around. There is also a worry that because of the hike in fuel bills and because Rachel Reeves' announcement didn't give pensioners a huge amount of time to get their affairs in order, there's now been this influx of calls to benefit helplines, pension helplines, charities, etc. And it looks as though some pensioners won't receive their last winter fuel payments before the beginning of December. And of course, we could well have a cold snap before that happens. So this is a really, really tricky situation for Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer. And of course, that's not the only problem that they're facing as a result of this energy price hike. It's not just going to affect pensioners and households, it'll affect businesses too. And last time energy bills went skyrocketing, we saw lots of pubs, restaurants and even some hotels having to close down. Well, that is not the sort of backdrop that you want when you say that you are pushing for growth.
Challenging time for the government, and as we were just saying, only 50 days in to being the government, and so much has happened in that short space of time. What's your assessment of these first 50 days?
I mean, it's been a really tough first 50 days for Keir Starmer. He might have hoped that coming into power in the middle of July and then going almost straight into recess, he might have had an easy time of it. But of course, he hasn't. We had those riots which shook the country, and he received lots and lots of criticism for his handling of those. Actually, for the most part, people criticising him for not going hard enough on the rioters. Well, that's a tricky one for him, because what he's done is essentially lock as many of them up as possible and arrest as many of them as possible. And obviously, we have a prisons overcrowding crisis. So he's gone pretty far, and people are still saying that he hasn't gone far enough. So that's an issue for him. You've got the economy remaining an issue for him. You've had inflation not going up a little bit rather than down, which economists were forecasting. Now you've got this hike in gas bills. In terms of how his popularity is doing as an effect of all of this, well, it does seem that his honeymoon period is over. His net popularity rating is now at 0. 38% of people think that he's doing a good job, but 38% of people think that he's doing a bad job. That's not terrible for 2 months or so in. It's a little bit better than Boris Johnson was doing 2 months after the 2019 election. Isn't nearly as well as Tony Blair was doing 2 months after the 1997 general election. And I think anyone who just assumed that because of the size of Labour's majority, they were guaranteed 2 terms in office, might be having another think now.
It's interesting, isn't it, as well, because we've gotten used to the idea of this Labour government that's got a huge majority and therefore will be able to do whatever they want. And actually, on this particular instance, it shows that if they bring in policies that anger their very sort of old-fashioned grassroots Labour MPs who are being nagged by their own constituents, they're that balance changes. Suddenly they haven't got the huge majority that they might have thought.
Well, I think that's a really interesting question. Exactly. I mean, with a majority that size, you would think that Keir Starmer would just be able to push through unpopular policies, particularly right at the beginning of his term in office, without much of a fallout. But the issue for Keir Starmer is that although the majority was very big, the actual share of the vote was lower than any poll predicted in the whole lead up to the election, and was actually lower than the share of the vote that Jeremy Corbyn received when he lost quite catastrophically in 2017. And that has an effect, because it means that there are Labour MPs in the party who look at Keir Starmer and think, well, yes, the Labour Party's popular, we've won a huge majority, but why, when the Conservative government that went before it was so unpopular and so tired after 13 years in office, did we not win a higher share of the vote? Could that be to do with Keir Starmer himself? And they would have good reason for thinking that. Over the course of the election campaign, the Labour Party always polled much, much higher than Keir Starmer personally, which was the opposite with Rishi Sunak. Sunak polled a lot higher than the Conservative Party generally. And basically what that means is that there are people in the Labour Party already beginning to whisper, well, is this the right man for the job? And they're not too scared of rebelling against the Prime Minister. They don't think this is the man who won us our enormous majority. They think Labour was going to win an enormous majority anyway. Keir Starmer happened to be the man who was there. And they're really not afraid to rebel. As we saw, a number of Labour MPs lost the whip over rebelling over the 2-child benefit limit. I think we could see something quite similar this time round if the Conservatives managed to force a vote on those winter fuel payments. You could have lots and lots of MPs rebelling. And that actually puts Keir Starmer in a surprisingly weak situation for someone who won the election in such a massive way just 50 days ago.
Yeah. Olivia Runtley, good to see you this morning. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think there are going to be sort of, well, you could call them exciting times or controversial times. There are going to be rebellions.
Oh, yeah, rebellions and potential U-turns, I think, on this one.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Now, beautiful sunny weather has taken a pause this weekend.
Oh, really?
It's
Taken a pause?
miserable outside, isn't it?
I think it's the other way around. I think the rain and storms and the hail and the wind takes a pause just ever so often for the sun to come out.
For a little bit of sun to creep out. We haven't had a summer, have we?
But it doesn't feel like
No, it doesn't feel like that. But parts of the nation still reacting to the aftermath of Storm Lillian this morning.
Passengers across the northwest are being encouraged to check trains, and Network Rail's response teams are working hard to remove fallen trees from train tracks.
Yeah, which is causing chaos, we heard from Simon Calder a little bit earlier on. Well, festival goers have also been affected in Leeds. Leeds Festival, 2 stages remain closed over the weekend. I've just seen a picture on social media, actually. The tents have literally just got huge holes in them.
Oh, what a shame.
Yes, they actually just can't.
Bank holiday weekend makes it worse. Let's talk to weather journalist Nathan Rao about it. Morning, Nathan. Here we go again.
Good morning.
I mean, I know there's been this Storm Lillian and everything, but it really is beginning to affect us now.
Really? I mean, it's the bank holiday weekend, the August bank holiday weekend, and we have just had an autumn storm, can you believe? The 12th storm of the season, Lillian was, which was quite unusual, unusual in terms of how fast she blew up in the Atlantic and hit the UK and caused a lot of damage for this time of year. And also unusual because we just don't really expect to see this sort of thing in August. Lillian is the sort of thing you expect to see a bit later on. The storm season starts in September into October, November, and then through the year. But as you both mentioned, throughout summer, really, this is just the theme of what we've had. We haven't really had a summer. I've just been looking at the statistics this morning, and over the last 2 months of summer, June and July, we haven't got August yet, but we have below average temperatures, below average sunshine, and below average rainfall, which is a good thing. But other than that, we're coming to the close of pretty much a pretty naff summer. And this weekend, apart from the odd blip, isn't going to look much better.
Term, naff summer.
It has been really naff, Nathan. When are we going to get a summer? Do you think we'll have an Indian summer, maybe September, October?
Well, it's very interesting you should say that. Now, for the next 3 days, it's going to be a bit more settled tomorrow. Obviously, we should talk about today. There is a weather warning from the Met Office in the southeast. That's London and the southeast, Kent, Sussex, Essex for rain until 1 o'clock today. Then tomorrow, it's a bit calmer. Then Monday, it's looking a bit more unsettled. But if you head towards the end of the week, we see a ridge of high pressure moving into the UK. Now, as you know, you've worked with me long enough now to know whenever I mention high pressure, this is good news at any time in the summer. We may well get one last fling of summer at the end of the week with temperatures going back into the 20s, drier sunshine. I've heard even 30 mentioned. I'll reserve judgment on that just yet. But grit your teeth through the weekend, through the bank holiday weekend, which is going to be pretty mixed and into the start of next week. And then, Ellie, yes, no promises, but we could well see a final fling of summer at the end of the week.
A final fling of summer. There you are, Anne.
It's not enough. That's not good enough. But OK.
I've tried my best this year. I really have. But sorry, can't deliver.
I know.
Nathan, we know you can't control it.
It's been a struggle.
But we'll give you a hard time anyway. Thank you very much.
We've seen a lot of you. At least that makes up for it. Thank you very much indeed, Nathan. Yeah.
Oh, it's miserable, Anne. I've had enough.
You've got to grit your teeth and then wait for a little fling of summer.
Yeah, we're hearing about a fling at the end of the week. Interesting. 30 degrees, that would be nice, wouldn't it? I'll believe it when I see it. Anyway, it is going to be miserable today. Ada McGibbon has got more detail for you.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. Staying cool and blustery this weekend, still some rain around, but also some sunshine. It's not going to rain everywhere all the time, but there will be a lot of rain around this morning for the Midlands, East Anglia, the south and southeast. And in fact, for the southeast of England, that rain, several hours of heavy rain, could cause some issues, localised flooding, transport disruption. It does slowly peel away during the early part of the afternoon, followed by bright spells, but also frequent showers into the afternoon. So it's going to feel cool with a gusty breeze, especially towards the northwest of the UK. Unseasonably cool with temperatures in the mid to high teens in many places. The evening brings further showers into the Midlands, the south and southeast of England, heavy downpours. Brighter skies, I think, for Wales and the southwest. Still a few showers, but otherwise mostly fine. And for northern England, a generally fine end to the day with some decent sunshine. Further showers to come for Northern Ireland, as well as western Scotland, even some more prolonged rain at times, accompanied by that gusty wind. But some good shelter there for eastern Scotland, with some late sunshine expected. Clearing skies overnight as finally any showers move away from the southeast, but further showers will arrive into western and northern parts of the country. These will be lighter and fewer compared with the daytime, and there'll be a decent chance of lighter winds and lengthy clear spells, leading to a cool start to Sunday with temperatures in the high single figures in some places. Further wet and breezy conditions arrive into Northern Ireland, western Scotland, Wales and the northwest during Sunday morning. I'd say it's a damp day for many on Sunday, with those outbreaks of rain moving east, but drier and brighter towards the southeast, mostly dry here, and some brighter weather for the far north of Scotland later on. Again, a cool day with a gusty wind, highs of 20 Celsius.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
OK, well, thinking of summer, think of spending money in summer, even if we don't get one. Here's your chance to win £30,000 in our Great British Giveaway. You've got to hurry, though, because lines close 5 p.m. this Friday coming. So here's how to get involved.
It's the final week to see how you could win an incredible £30,000 in cash. And you could be getting that winning call from us to tell you that you're our next Great British Giveaway winner.
Oh, I can't believe this.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon.
I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh, you shocked me. I never won a penny in my life.
If I was there, I'll buy you a drink.
Get your entry in now for another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash. Text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck indeed. Now, at 20 minutes past 7, let's take a look at some other stories coming into the newsroom this morning.
Well, there's a major manhunt underway in Germany going on right now after a stabbing at a festival, leaving 3 people dead, 5 people seriously injured. Police have said it's a major incident in the western city of Solingen after a man is said to have begun attacking passers-by at random just before 10 o'clock last night. The industrial city was actually celebrating in a big festival of 650 years since it was founded.
The former footballer and BBC presenter Jermaine Jenas says he is ashamed and deeply sorry as he admitted to sending inappropriate messages to a female colleague. The 41-year-old, who's been married for 13 years and has 4 children, has told The Sun newspaper he's let down his family, his friends and his colleagues and the women involved, and is now seeking help. Despite the scandal, he insists he's done nothing illegal, claiming the exchanges were between consenting adults.
This is completely on me. I am 100% in the wrong, and I accept full responsibility for that. And it's something that obviously I need to address and look at myself. The family situation is the thing that first is at the forefront of my mind, that I'm trying to just piece back together. But I've also got to be able to kind of look myself in the mirror and understand where I've gone wrong, and understand that this is on me. It's not on anybody else. There's nobody else to blame here.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says he's suspending his independent presidential bid and he's going to instead back Donald Trump. Some of his famous Kennedy family, of course, say the decision is a betrayal of their values, and they said it was a sad ending to a sad story. But he's the nephew of former President JFK, of course. He believes his presence in the race would help Democratic nominee Kamala Harris.
How did the Democratic Party choose a candidate that has never done an interview or debate during the entire election cycle? We know the answers. They did it by weaponizing the government agencies. They did it by abandoning democracy. They did it by suing the opposition and by disenfranchising American voters.
Now, still to come, are face tattoos ever socially acceptable? We're going to be debating that next.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Joined now by the founder of Quintet London, Tanta Masulishvili, who channels her experience and fervour for fashion into her innovative brands which produce artworks on silk. You brought in some lovely things which we'll discuss in just a moment. Tell me a little bit about the complexity of printing an artist's idea onto silk. Is that a difficult thing to do?
It's actually very simple, because we just simply ask our clients a set of questions to find out what they like, their experiences, their favorite objects or anything they desire. We create out of this information preliminary sketch, show it to clients until it's perfect. We change it according to their needs.
Are you saying that everything that you're doing here is personalised to a client? It's a commission from a client?
Every single piece is totally unique. We make each individual piece for the client taste. So every single piece is totally different. And what is nice, for example, we do like wedding favors, corporate gifts, investors' gifts, and every single time we would match the theme throughout to the actual company theme and so on.
Now, here we have a series of little silk ties. Am I right to call them ties?
This one's actually called twillies. Twilly.
Yes. I didn't know the word twilly.
Yes.
These have a name. So this is the name of your client in this case. This one is Amanda, I think.
Exactly. So actually these are our signature design. So if you want to give someone something quickly, but just simply add their names, you can order from our website and you just simply need to insert their name and we can produce it on your favorite color combination. But then obviously our main product is totally unique pieces which are bespoke.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threats on.
As time passes, she could have saved Storm. You made my argument for me. My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, this is fascinating, and I wonder what you think. An army veteran has become the world's most tattooed woman after a 10-year journey to ink 99.98% of her body. I mean, that's really nearly everywhere. And she's still not finished.
How much more is there to do?
Look
My
at her.
goodness. If
Look.
you're listening on the radio, it is, well, what you'd expect.
She's
Everything.
a woman with pink hair, and everything you can see of her skin, her body, is tattooed.
and covered in ink. Even her eyeballs, it looks like her eyeballs.
Apparently her eyeballs have got tattoos on them. I don't know how you do
Yeah,
that.
she's got black eyeballs. I think you can do it. I've heard of this before. Well, her name is Esperance Fazina, and she's from Bridgeport in Connecticut. She's only 36 years old, but she's now officially been declared the most tattooed female ever in the Guinness Book of World Records.
But I wonder, I mean, yes, she is unusual, and you'd know her if you met her, frankly, wouldn't you? But are tattoos acceptable they're becoming more and more acceptable just amongst all of us, aren't they? But what about in the workplace?
And I wonder if it ever affects how well you do at work.
If you were interviewing somebody for a job, would you be affected at all by the fact that they've got facial tattoos? We're joined now by tattoo artist Jade Wildman.
And we've also got Diana Mathos, an etiquette expert, in the studio with us. Really good to see you both this morning. Thank you for joining us. Jade, let's start with you. What do you make of this lady then, who's got 99.98% of her body tattooed? Do you think this would affect the way that she is received at work?
I do affect it would how she is seen at work, just purely because tattoos are still so stigmatised in the workplace. But I do, however, disagree with the negative stigma surrounding facial tattoos or full body tattoos in that case. And I do encourage a positive change forward. I think in today's rapidly evolving society, the traditional standards of what is socially acceptable are being redefined. Facial tattoos, full body tattoos, once stigmatised, are increasingly seen as a form of personal expression, and there shouldn't be a barrier to one's professional or social life.
But if somebody comes to you and says, I want a big facial tattoo, something that will always be visible, do you ever sort of ask them to think again or think it through more? Or because it's a much bigger journey to take, isn't it, than just having something on your shoulder or your arms?
Yes, and I wish it wasn't. I do have certain rules surrounding that when people do come to me to inquire about visible tattoos. I do generally say late 20s, early 30s, you should have your career already on track and on its path. And I do also recommend already having your body heavily covered before you go straight to your face. You basically need to have already ran out of room before you start moving on to face, neck, hands, etc.
Well, Jade, I do notice that you have all these beautiful, intricate tattoos all over your body from what we can see on your chest and your arms there, but you haven't, to what we can see anyway, touched your face. Why is that? Oh, you do? You have?
It's just a little wee one. It's just just a moon and some stars and then some dots on my ears. I did it as soon as I was able to tattoo people. I kind of went, getting this now, there's no going back.
And would you ever do more on your face, do you think?
I have thought about it, yeah, I have. I think there's more that I need to do still. I want to do gaps on my body that I want to fill, but eventually, yeah, I wouldn't mind going on my face.
You've got a beautiful enough face. That is a very old-fashioned thing to say to somebody, but you don't need to add to that face. Etiquette expert Diana Mather is with us. Do you feel the same reaction as me? She doesn't need to touch her face.
Absolutely not. But the thing is about if you are going for a job, for instance, we make up 90% of our minds about somebody within the first 3 seconds.
Well, it's your front page, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I have written a book on body language, and the face is just so important. You need to have the smile, you need to be able to read the facial expression, even when we're speaking. Now, if the face is really heavily tattooed, you can't do that, because you're totally distracted by looking at what's on the face without looking at what's on the person.
But what about a little star or something? You know, like festival... Like
what Jade's got.
Yes, yeah, that would be fine.
People, if they go to a festival, they do those little tattoos.
I mean, that's fine, because that's not distracting.
Yeah.
But if you were covered in tattoos, Anne, I would find it very difficult to read you, or... I would just be gobsmacked. To have it on the face and round the eyes, I'd be thinking, that is so painful. I wouldn't be listening to what you're saying, anything. It's totally distracting, that's the problem.
Jade said that there is still this stigma, particularly to facial tattoos. We do judge people with tattoos, don't we?
We do. Unfortunately, we do, because it's not the norm. And as a human being, we tend to judge what is not the norm. And as Jade says, we are getting much more used to it. It is much more socially acceptable. But a lot of firms will say, if you've got a tattoo, you cover it. We don't want tattoos in the workplace as our image of the company, which is fair enough, because if you go for a job, you want that company, you are the face of that company.
You are.
And if you're covered in tattoos, it's probably not what they want.
Yeah, and Jade, that's a really interesting point, isn't it? I was actually looking at last night an article, and it was for an athletic company, we'll say that much, and they said in the job description that you couldn't have any visible tattoos. So people are up against that still in any industry, that you might not be allowed to have any visible tattoos. Have you ever experienced anything like that? Probably not as a tattoo artist, but with people coming to you that they have to keep their tattoos hidden?
Yes, I tattoo a lot of teachers. So, well, saying this, I tattoo a teacher who has his neck tattooed and his throat and a bit on his face. But obviously that his school allow him to have those tattoos, and he asked them before he went ahead with that. But then on the other side, I have other teachers who are only allowed to get from here up. So they always ask their workplace, and I always want them to respect their workplace to ask them. As much as I don't agree with it, I respect what their job says in regards to whether or not they can have, you know, be heavily tattooed or have facial tattoos.
Have you ever tattooed mastectomy patients?
I haven't actually.
Wait,
I would love to, but I haven't.
I've just been through the breast cancer thing, and obviously not yet. It would be too early. But a lot of women who are rebuilt after they've had their breasts removed, they used to offer, or they used to encourage you to have a nipple tattooed on.
Yes.
So you felt more ordinary and normal. But now there's a big movement amongst mastectomy patients to have just beautiful flowers and things.
Artwork.
And apparently some women have almost like a lacy bra tattooed on them.
Yeah.
Absolutely fabulous look. I don't know whether it's for me yet, certainly not. But it's one of those
Touch
things.
with Jade.
It just shows
first.
Yeah, it just shows that tattoo is being accepted, and even medically so.
Oh, absolutely. Tattoos, I see it every single day. Even mastectomy scars or any form of scarring surrounding anything. People get tattoos to make them feel more confident, and they always walk out of the studio, you know, walking a couple of inches higher. You know, you can see them just, you know, really feeling themselves. It's outside of just, you know, putting artwork on people. You're also just making people feel better about themselves or something they were insecure about.
But Jade, have you come across people who really regret having had the tattoos? And if they do, is it easy to get rid of them?
Yes, sometimes I do. I find some people maybe haven't done enough research. They've gone to a shop that, you know, with artists that aren't as skilled, or they hadn't thought about what they wanted for long enough. So now they end up regretting what it is they got. Tattoos generally are nowadays very easy to get rid of. There's fantastic laser treatments up and down the country. And we also offer cover-up services as well, if the tattoo can be covered. And there's a lot of skillful artists up and down the UK as well that are able to offer that as a service.
So, Diana, you'd never be tempted, no?
I'm afraid I wouldn't, no. Especially at my age, definitely not.
You're never too old for a tattoo.
You're never too old.
I know, but what if your skin goes really, really wrinkly?
Well, I think you have to think of that. You have to choose the part of the body. But it was when Helen Mirren got one, I thought, why not?
Oh, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
People are always surprised by Stephen Dixon, aren't they, that he's got tattoos all over his arms, but he intentionally keeps them covered.
Yeah.
Yes.
That he can...
I've got one there, which, again,
you?
you can choose whether or not you show it.
And you can keep it covered. Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people decide to do. Ladies, we're out of time, I'm afraid.
But isn't it
really good?
It is absolutely fascinating.
Thank you so
Brilliant
much,
subject.
Jade and Diana.
Thank you.
Really good to speak to you both. Fascinating.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. You will have an opinion on that. gbnews.com/you'll say. Let us know what you think on that one.
And we'll take a quick break, and then we'll be talking sport.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Prince Harry says we need to be more cautious when adopting artificial intelligence.
Yes.
AI is scary, and I think a lot of people are scared and uncertain. And I think one of the solutions to that is education and awareness, because it's becoming harder and harder to stem the flow from the source, and therefore, really, it comes down to all of us to be able to spot the true from the fake.
Well, that was a whole load of nothing, wasn't it?
Wisdom.
Yes, we're going to get the thoughts now of former royal correspondent at The Sun, Charles Ray.
Well, I have to say, I actually agree with Harry and anyone else who says that we have to be cautious about things that appear on social media.
Disinformation and fake news is a controversial topic because who is the ultimate arbiter of truth and fact?
So do you trust Harry to determine?
Well, I don't trust Harry to determine that, no.
They never actually say what they want, though, in terms of social media and things. I mean, do they actually have an idea of what the online media landscape should look like? I mean, there's clearly a veiled attack on Elon Musk and the like, but do they just want anything nasty off there? They just want things that, you know, are then proven to be untrue at some point off there? You know, it's easy to stand and say, I want the online world to be safer and it to be less nasty and for there to be less untruths on there. Yeah. It's much more difficult, as we found out in this country and every other country, to actually work out what the policy looks like.
You're absolutely right, Emily, that it's all very well everybody jumping on the bandwagon and saying, oh, we've got to clamp down on social media. Like, I'm suggesting that as well. But, you know, they haven't come up with any solution to it, any program to make it safer and healthier for people to use.
The People's Channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, 7:39. Time to look very quickly through the sport. We can't talk sport without talking about this young man,
Jermaine
Jenas, who has been sacked just like that by the BBC.
Yes.
And also his own agency has sort of given up on him.
Yeah, that's often quite telling, isn't it? Although I do think that in the last 24, 36 hours, somebody from the world of crisis management may have got in contact with him and said...
Absolutely.
Look...
He's changed his tune, hasn't he?
He has changed his... Well, yes and no. I mean, he didn't actually say much on Thursday on talkSPORT. I mean, it was a car crash interview they did with him on there. They just thought, well, he's in the building presenting a show, so let's seize the opportunity for an exclusive. The reality, Ellie, is that it sounded like a police interview. He said, I can't say anything because my lawyers have told me to say nothing. Yeah. I can't say... He actually asked for to come off air at one point. It was very deeply unedifying and uncomfortable. And so 2 days later, Saturday morning in The Sun, he says sorry to his wife, the women that he texted. He said it wasn't physical, but it was cheating. He said, I'm self-destructive and I let my family down. He said he's receiving therapy for the affliction as well. And somebody has obviously convinced him that there is a way out of this. And that's why he's made the effort to be contrite. That's why he's made the effort to try and mitigate the damage, because he feels that just maybe... I mean, I suppose you've got nothing to lose in this situation,
well,
have
that's
you?
true, yeah.
If you're under the impression that it's all over and it's happened in this kind of sledgehammer type of way, then what choice have you got, really, than to try and fight it? What's the worst that can happen? You're in the same position you were on Thursday afternoon. And so it's damage limitation. He did say... Sorry, he didn't say that. It's been intimated in the article in The Sun by Clemmy Moody that he's considering suing the BBC. So we'll see what happens from here, but I just don't see how he can rebuild. I think that there are no shortage of people who want to do his job.
No.
There are no shortage of people who will probably do it for less than he gets. I mean, he's on 180 grand a year just for his appearances on the One Show, but there's more than that. It's what it would have meant going forward, Anne, because he was tipped to take over as the Match of the Day presenter from Gary Lineker.
That's quite a tip, isn't
Gary
it?
Lineker apparently gave him his blessing to do that. I would imagine, well, we've seen how much clout Gary Lineker holds within the BBC in recent years, haven't we? Personally, I don't think he did enough in the game, really, to justify being the presenter of the Match of the Day. You look at the Match of the Day contributors, the mainline guys, Gary Lineker wonderful
Huge
player for
stars,
England.
and I mean a former captain, obviously.
Former captain, was a record goal scorer for England at one stage. Alan Shearer as well. He had a stellar career, achieved much more than Jermaine
But
Jenas
nevertheless, I mean, you need somebody with a bit of personality and the good looks and all the rest of it. And
he's also
he certainly
known.
had that.
Yeah, I mean,
but we're talking about him already in the past tense. I mean,
we are.
Because this summarily. Well, the BBC sacked him summarily. I can't remember. But this very sudden sacking.
Yes.
And it's almost as though he's accepted it. Yes, he said he's going to look at suing the BBC.
I mean, maybe he's been tipped off, but there's more to come.
His own agency not wanting anything to do with him. You can't help
That's
but
always
wonder,
telling.
is there more that's going to come out?
Well, that's always telling, because the reason you pay a big agency like MC Saatchi is to bail you out in situations like these.
Well, that's what they're there for.
If they're looking at it and think, sorry, mate, you're on your own, then that to me is telling. I can't think of too many examples down the years, covering football particularly, when an agency has so ruthlessly dispensed with their client.
So there could be more to come on this one. Should we have a quick look at the Premier League fixtures today?
Yeah, we've got
Aidan?
some great games coming up. We've got Manchester City in action against Ipswich at 3 o'clock. We did loads on Ipswich last week. Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola says that he wants an end to these charges, 115 of them in total, hanging over Manchester City. We know there's going to be a hearing. It will begin next month. We're not going to see the verdict, really, Anne, until next March. So his wish for a quick resumption to all this, also a quick resolution to all this, is going to be pie in the sky, quite frankly, because even after that, the Premier League have the option to appeal, as do Manchester City. It could go on for another 2 years, unfortunately. But he said that, well, he didn't say this, but I know how he's feeling. It will be that every time Manchester City wins something, there'll always be this little cloud over it. Did they do it from cheating? Did they do it from financial irregularity, or by using the avenue of financial irregularities, which we should say they strenuously deny?
OK. Aidan, we're out of time, I'm afraid. Thank you very much.
We'll talk a bit of tennis next time.
Without doubt.
Of course we will, yes. Anne loves her tennis.
That's very good. Anyway, do stay with us, because still to come, why is there controversy over a BBC chauffeur? More on, it's weird. More on that in our paper review. It's coming up.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
With record temperatures expected this week, how do zoos keep their cooler creatures cold? Well, at Yorkshire Wildlife Park, the polar bears are enjoying a vegetable ice block.
Polar bears, they do have quite a variety of different temperatures that they naturally do find. Once they're moving off these polar ice caps, they are in the likes of down in the areas of Canada, Hudson Bay. Naturally, they were finding polar bears in 35-degree temperatures year upon year. So they are very much used to warm temperatures and heat waves as such. What you'll tend to find is they'll go for a good swim and then go for a snooze in the shade thereafter.
Not wanting to miss out, the sea lions are treated to a huge fish lolly.
In the hot weather, it's really important to give them ice, because these guys, they don't drink salt water. These pools are actually saltwater pools. They actually drink fresh water. They've got 2 freshwater pools in their house, but again, being able to provide that in their outside enclosure is also really important. So offering them ice with their fish is not only enriching, but it's actually beneficial to their welfare as well.
Other animals like the lemurs will be basking in the sun, but also cooling down with frozen sweet potato.
So we've got 3 different species of lemur here. They come in all different shapes, colours, sizes, but they are native to Madagascar. Madagascar can get quite hot, understandably, so throughout the cold months here in Yorkshire, we do give them a nice heated house all year round, but especially making sure it's nice and warm in the winter for them. And it does mean that in the hot spells as well that we're able to keep our eyes on them and try and give them things that make them a bit more comfortable with that incoming hot weather as well.
The frozen food on offer here certainly has the seal of approval on what could be the hottest day of the year.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. We're looking quickly through the newspapers again with Emma and Candice, who've just joined us. And Emma, I can barely believe, the BBC must be reeling at the moment, thinking they've got another scandal that's taking up all of the front pages. That's Jermaine Jenas. But now there's another one, something about a chauffeur that they've been using for the last 30 years.
Yeah, this is a really shocking case of this chap, Niven Sinclair, who was paid millions to run a kind of chauffeur company, car company. This is a service they used from the 1970s until as late as 2006. Despite being a paedophile who actually had a conviction for raping a child at gunpoint, this man, Niven Sinclair, ran this company for over 30 years. This firm was responsible for ferrying around Jimmy Savile, Ted Heath, the then Prime Minister Ted Heath, to and from BBC studios. One of the drivers was also a convicted paedophile who abused children at BBC studios. So I think...
Was it part of some sort of paedophile ring?
Yeah. There's no suggestion of a paedophile ring in this article in The Telegraph, but obviously, the man was convicted, it was known about, and it just raises massive questions as to why this was used. It wasn't sort of booked for a year, this was 30 years that this man was in charge, running a very, a much-used chauffeur company. So it's really, really shocking. I think we should make a distinction between this and what Jermaine Jenas is being sacked for.
Absolutely.
But obviously, as you say, the BBC are not in a good place at the moment.
No. They're having a terrible time.
Coming on the recent, the recent Hugh Edwards scandal, which very much is in that sort of child abuse and child safety realm.
I mean, I know it's an enormous organisation, the BBC, but it doesn't just have a reputation. It is, it's our national.
Yeah, and there aren't paedophiles everywhere. We should be really, really clear that it's quite a rare thing for a man who clearly has serious convictions. It's not as though we're asking everybody to vet everybody within a corporation. Yeah, it's huge, but this is really, really serious. Criminal convictions.
And they need to be seen taking a really serious stance on it, which we haven't yet seen, have we, Candice?
Yes, well, this is what's happened with Jermaine Jenas as well. They've sort of tried to get ahead of the story as quickly as they can because they don't want to be seen to like they did with Hugh Edwards, like they're on the back foot and they let things drag out. I mean, they really need to preserve their reputation in this. I mean, like you say, we can't say that the BBC is some big, pedophile ring and that they're covering for pedophiles. There's no suggestion of that whatsoever. But this has become such a topical thing in this in the times that we live in, that this sort of behaviour, there's just zero tolerance for it now, and people won't put up with it.
Well, we've got this statement from the BBC saying that today's BBC has incredibly robust safeguarding policies and processes which have been strengthened decade upon decade. If people have any complaints or concerns to put to us, we want to hear from them, and they will be treated with the utmost care and seriousness. There we go.
OK, look, Candice, take us on to something which, if it wasn't so utterly awful, it would be funny. It's the latest farce over HS2.
Yes, the latest chapter in the beleaguered HS2 story. So this latest thing, this is a report in the I newspaper, is that now they're going to have to, at a cost of £200 million, they're going to have to redesign the steps leading onto the platforms because for a lot of them, there's apparently a huge gap. So they don't fit the station platforms because so many of them have different heights. So there's no standard size. And it's become a big safety issue in recent years. Apparently that's where most of the accidents take place on train platforms, people falling between the gap, for instance. So now they're going to have to do that. I mean, this is after this project. You've seen ballooning costs over years. You've seen its eastern leg scrapped, its northern leg scrapped, and now this.
So if they try to fix this problem, it's going to cost something like £200 million. And even then, it won't be properly fixed because there is no way to. Apparently, the design is just incompatible.
Some gaps, though, on trains are absolutely terrifying. We've both got very young children. Sometimes you have to get a buggy backwards down a train because it's simply not, well, often not safe. For older people, it's not safe. That sometimes you have these huge gaps on trains and platforms.
Yeah.
This is basic stuff, isn't it? I'm glad you gave us an update on which bits have been scrapped, because I've actually lost track on the HS2 thing of where it's going. Yeah, which bits don't add up, which bits don't even connect.
But did nobody think, this is a common
basic
problem,
train
did
stuff.
nobody think years ago we need to make sure that the trains fit the platforms?
Yes, yeah. Well, they say that every train station is different, so it's hard to come up with a standard size. But even that should have been foreseen in advance. And I know what that's like to have to fall afoul of that. Years ago, my dog fell between the platform. I was coming off the train and she pulled me, and so I tried to pull her back, and she just went bah into the gap. And thank goodness the train was stationary, and the conductor ran and he picked her up. But I've heard nightmare stories, absolute nightmare stories.
And was your dog okay?
She was fine. She was absolutely fine, but it's made me so cautious now that there is absolutely no way, like you say, I would ever attempt to get off a train now with 3 children.
Yeah.
Because I would just think, how could I get them all off the platforms, onto the platform safely? You do think about that in terms of these gaps.
And apparently this gap is so big that it can't, even with redesign, it can't be ever wheelchair compatible.
But it has to be. Moving around a city, moving around the country with any kind of wheels, wheelchairs or prams, is very, very difficult. It's very, you know, it was only when I had a child that I realised how hard it must be to be disabled in this country and to be trying, and at least I'm pushing a buggy, I could pick it up.
Yeah.
If you're in a wheelchair, it's just criminal that we allow people to struggle on pavements, off pavements, curbs. Simple things like curbs and wonky paving stones are a nightmare when you are struggling to get around, just go around your day.
It's such a good point, actually. I mean, one of my local train stations, there's absolutely no accessibility.
You can't use it
whatsoever. Yes, and you're dependent on the kindness of strangers to help you get a pram up the stairs.
And it is the dependence in society that we're talking about. It is older people, it is mothers, it is people who need that help.
But it's the invisible people. It's the invisible people.
We should have overcome these problems years.
Of course we should. And we're not experts, and I can see the point about the platforms and the trains. Everything is going to be different. Some of these trains, the doors, when they open, they're really high up. But that's their job. That's why we're pouring millions into it. It's their job. I don't know. They have to have train stairs that come down, you know, like buses do, have a sort of platform that comes down.
Yeah, we had to fight for this. People had to fight for just accessibility on pavements and things. I mean, we take it as a given, but it was actually people with disabilities who fought for it.
OK, ladies, thank you very much, both of you. We'll see you in an hour's time. Let's have a look at the weather now with Aidan.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. Staying cool and blustery this weekend, still some rain around, but also some sunshine. It's not going to rain everywhere all the time, but there will be a lot of rain around this morning for the Midlands, East Anglia, the south and southeast. And in fact, for the southeast of England, that rain, several hours of heavy rain, could cause some issues, localised flooding, transport disruption. It does slowly peel away during the early part of the afternoon, followed by bright spells, but also frequent showers into the afternoon. So it's going to feel cool with a gusty breeze, especially towards the northwest of the UK. Unseasonably cool with temperatures in the mid to high teens in many places. The evening brings further showers into the Midlands, the south and southeast of England, heavy downpours. Brighter skies, I think, for Wales and the southwest. Still a few showers, but otherwise mostly fine. And for northern England, a generally fine end to the day with some decent sunshine. Further showers to come for Northern Ireland, as well as western Scotland, even some more prolonged rain at times, accompanied by that gusty wind. But some good shelter there for eastern Scotland, with some late sunshine expected. Clearing skies overnight as finally any showers move away from the southeast, but further showers will arrive into western and northern parts of the country. These will be lighter and fewer compared with the daytime, and there'll be a decent chance of lighter winds and lengthy clear spells, leading to a cool start to Sunday with temperatures in the high single figures in some places. Further wet and breezy conditions arrive into Northern Ireland, western Scotland, Wales and the northwest during Sunday morning. I'd say it's a damp day for many on Sunday with those outbreaks of rain moving east. But Drier and brighter towards the southeast, mostly dry here, and some brighter weather for the far north of Scotland.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could win an incredible £30,000 in cash, and you could be getting that winning call from us to tell you that you're our next Great British Giveaway winner.
Oh, I can't believe this.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon.
I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh, you shocked me. I never won a penny in my life.
If I was there, I'll buy you a drink.
Get your entry in now for another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash. Text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2 or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Sarah, welcome to the show. Obviously, you work for a tobacco company, so a little caveat there to slip in. Nevertheless, it's no surprise that the illegal market is growing so much. When you look at the cost of cigarettes in Britain, huge amounts of duty, and oftentimes, of course, criminality always finds its way into the system. Tell us more about your report.
Absolutely. I mean, up to 90% of a packet of cigarettes is tax. And in the last year, there's been 2 tax increases that have equated more to the last 3 years combined. So now, if you're a roll-your-own smoker, a 30-gram pouch of roll-your-own will cost £22.50, but you can buy a counterfeit pack of 50 grams for £3. So there's a massive disparity. A lot of illegal tobacco is imported, but we do also have a problem in the UK with illegal tobacco factories. So in the last month, there's been an illegal tobacco factory in Gateshead, in Bury, busted, producing roll-your-own tobacco. And on the 12th of July this month, West Midlands gang illegal tobacco factory, the gang was found guilty of producing illegal tobacco, and that was more than £5 million lost tax revenue to the government. And actually, all of those people found guilty got a suspended sentence.
And how does that work? They're literally importing container loads of raw tobacco and packaging it up in factories in Britain, and they're using what appears to be British packaging illegally?
Yeah, some of it is branded packaging, so some of it isn't the kind of unbranded packaging we'd see on cigarettes and roll-your-own now, but it's relatively simple to reproduce, especially RYO. Our own pack swap data now shows that about 50% of the roll-your-own market is illegal tobacco.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning. The Prime Minister and Chancellor feel the heat over winter fuel payments.
As a Labour peer condemns the government over their decision.
But will the government do a U-turn? We'll be debating that shortly.
Wild weather combined with a bank holiday long weekend expected to cause chaos on the roads as usual. We'll be joined by travel guru Simon Calder in just a moment to see how you can avoid the worst of it.
And Jermaine Jenas speaks out again as he apologises for the scandal which has seen him sacked by the BBC and dropped by his talent agency.
This is completely on me. I am 100% in the wrong and I accept full responsibility for that.
As the final body is recovered from the sunken Bayesian superyacht, Italian authorities are preparing to reveal what may have caused the tragedy.
Robert Kennedy Jr. drops out of the race for president and endorses Donald Trump, a move his famously Democrat family have labelled a betrayal of their values.
It's a bumper day of Premier League action as Pep Guardiola insists he wants a quick resolution to the 115 charges hanging over the head of his Manchester City side. We'll hear about England's progress in the cricket, and in tennis we look ahead to the US Open.
It's a wet start to the bank holiday weekend for southern and southeastern parts of the UK, with further showers elsewhere. Will there be any brighter weather this weekend? I'll have the full details coming up soon.
It's just gone 1 minute past 8. I'm Ellie Costello.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
loads of you getting in touch on tattoos. Thank you so much. Do
It
keep
was a
them coming
fascinating
in.
debate we had over whether tattoos are still carry that stigma that they used to, or whether they're actually now acceptable in the workplace.
Yeah, do they change the way that you are perceived at work? Nanny Lulu has been in touch. Morning, Nanny Lulu. Says, good morning, Poppets. I am an employer and tattoos aren't discriminated against, but I think it depends on which role a person is coming for and their personality, and that will determine if they are best for the job. Although saying that, to be completely covered, I think is over the top. Each their own, I guess. It's definitely a younger trend to go all out with the ink, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, we were showing earlier some pictures of a woman from America who has tattooed 99.98% of her body. You can't believe the places she's had tattoos I didn't even know were possible.
Yeah, including her eyeballs, would you believe? Sharon's been in touch saying, hi, Anne. I've had tattoos from breast cancer. It trails all down my side and around my back. Nothing makes you feel better than having your scars turned into art.
I know. I've seen some absolutely amazing things. I was talking earlier about after a mastectomy, a lot of women used to then, a couple of years later, have a nipple tattooed on just to make them feel, you know, sort of normal-ish. Back to work sort of thing. But since then, there's been this whole movement of going to a tattoo artist and asking them to do something rather more than that. Beautiful flowers and lovely decorations. And
you can understand that, can't you? Out of pain, something really beautiful.
Yes, yeah.
I once interviewed a guy who I believed was the most tattooed footballer in the country. This was back in 2008. I was working for the News of the World, and this guy, Darren Curry, who's still a friend of mine, was playing for Luton Town. They had a big FA Cup tie against Liverpool, so this was the preview. So I drove all the way to Witham in Essex.
Oh, yeah.
And they got him to get his kit off.
Near my neck of the woods.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
OK, I didn't know you then.
You asked him to get his kit off?
I did, yeah, but with a photographer who was a royal photographer at the time who came on the trip, a guy called Kent Gavin.
Yeah, I know Kent Gavin.
He got his kit off for us, literally, and we took loads of photos. My first question to him was, so, Darren, are you the most tattooed footballer in the country? And he went, well, how the hell do I know? Which was a fair answer, I think, isn't it? And so, but back there, I look at the tattoos now, I look back at those, they're actually quite modest compared to what a footballer has on their body right now.
Yeah, loads of really inked.
It was an FA Cup time. My intro was, Darren Curry is desperate to leave a permanent mark on the FA Cup.
Oh, very nice.
Very good, Aidan. Very, very good.
David Beckham used to come in for a lot of stick
yes,
when he first started.
Yes, he's very
got
tattooed,
very
isn't he?
hooked on tattoos, didn't he?
Yeah,
and then he got his children's names on the back of his neck and everything.
That's right. Yeah, I think the rule of thumb is that as long as it can be covered by a shirt, then you're probably quite safe. But things are changing, aren't they?
Ernie's been in touch saying tattoos. Research, he says he's been looking at, says that men find tattoos attractive on other men rather than women finding tattoos attractive on men. So it's men who like tattoos.
I don't know about that. Do
you like tattoos then?
Yes, I think I do, as long as they're subtle. You know,
subtle.
Yeah. If they're overdone,
not tramp stamp.
Too much.
What do you think, Aidan?
But it's a matter of judgment, isn't it?
Not my cup of tea. I could tolerate a small one, I would think.
Yeah.
But not plastered everywhere.
And lots of you very concerned about what happens when you get older and your skin goes saggy. So
it depends where you have it done.
The designs designs have to be timeless as well, because it's like anything else. You go in and out of fashion.
That's the thing. That's the thing. I couldn't choose something that I'd like for the rest of my life.
For instance, Stephen has got a tattoo on his ankle.
Yes.
Now, ankles don't go sort of flabby and you know, the skin doesn't dimple as you grow older. Ankles are ankles, aren't they?
Remember some of the old school ones in the 80s, like you'd see blokes with them, and after a time they kind of smudge a little bit, or they go a bit green.
Or fade.
A little bit like buying a dodgy watch from Turkey or something.
Oh, well, it depends who does it.
Yeah, maybe it's better now. I don't know. Well, keep your views coming in.
Would you have one?
I don't think I'd ever choose something that I'd like enough
to have it
permanently inked on my body. I'm too indecisive.
A little rosebud somewhere very private.
Oh.
That only your loved one sees, you know?
Thanks.
That's the thing about tattoos.
I'll think about it. I'll bear it in mind. Thanks, Anne. Do keep your views coming in, gbnews.com/.
OK, let's talk politics. Now, it may seem like ancient history or perhaps just a flash in time to you, but no matter how you look at it, Keir Starmer today, I wonder if they're giving him a cake with 50 candles. 50th day as Prime Minister.
Well, what a busy 50 days it's been for him, and now renewed pressure this week over his government's decision to scrap winter fuel payments.
Yeah, it's pretty awkward time for him at the moment. Lots of very critical headlines. We're joined now by GB News' political correspondent, Olivia Utley. I don't know whether he'll look upon the last 50 days as, oh, my goodness, what have I got myself in for? Or whether he's enjoying it. Is there any sign?
Well, it would be hard to be enjoying the last 50 days. Yeah. You would have thought coming into power at the beginning of July and then almost going straight into recess that he might have had quite a quiet time of it. I was certainly hoping we were going to have a quiet time of it. But it hasn't been like that at all. Obviously, we had the riots, which threw the whole country into disarray. He was under a lot of criticism for not actually going far enough, people thought, in making sure that the rioters were appropriately punished. Now, that's a very tricky one for him because Keir Starmer thought he went pretty far. He has arrested over 1,000 people. The police have arrested over 1,000 people, I should say. And lots and lots of those have already been charged. And we have a prisons crisis, so how's he going to deal with that? But at the same time, people are saying that he hasn't gone far enough. Then, of course, we have this energy crisis, which is just going on and on and on. It looked like we were getting close to the end of it. Obviously, a few months ago, the government lifted that subsidy that it was paying to help people with their bills. But yesterday, those gas prices, electricity prices have gone up again. That leaves pensioners in a lot of difficulty. And that's the real problem for Keir Starmer at the moment. A couple of weeks ago, his Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, announced that winter fuel payments would be massively, massively scaled back. At the moment, they're paid to all pensioners. And under this new scheme, they would be means tested. They would only be paid to pensioners on various types of benefits. Now that the gas prices have gone up again, that's not looking like the most savvy political decision, because you could end up in a situation where pensioners through the winter, and obviously we will be going into the winter very soon, could be living in big cold houses, spending a lot of time at home, don't have that winter fuel payments and can't afford to pay their gas bills. So that's a real problem for Keir Starmer. Meanwhile, of course, we've got the economy. Now, it did look as though inflation was going down. It did look as though interest rates were beginning to show signs of going down. But the latest figures actually showed that inflation was up a little bit, only a bit, 2.2 to 2.3%. But that just shows how stubborn inflation is. And these gas price hikes will have a knock-on effect on the economy as well, because it's not just households and pensioners who will be feeling the pinch, it's businesses too. And last time this happened, lots and lots of businesses had to close down. If that happened again, that really wouldn't be good for Keir Starmer's growth message.
It will be a winter of discontent.
Well, exactly, which really isn't what he wants in his very first few months in office. Now, as for his popularity, it's holding up relatively well. He has a net favourability rating of 0. Doesn't sound great, but to put that into context, it is a bit better than Boris Johnson was doing 2 months after his pretty astounding 2019 victory. That said, it's not nearly as good as Tony Blair's rating after 2 months in office, even though Keir Starmer actually has almost exactly the same size majority as Tony Blair did back in 1997. Now, the fact that Keir Starmer's popularity isn't sort of sky high means that he is under a little bit of pressure in his own party.
Yes, there are rebels there.
Backbench MPs are prepared to rebel against him. They're not eternally grateful to the man who gifted them their enormous majority and gifted them their seats. They think that the Labour Party probably would have won whoever was in charge. And looking at the figures, you can see why.
Do you think we'll see a U-turn over this?
I think we might see a semi-U-turn. I think that you could.
What's that?
Well,
look at thresholds.
Look at thresholds. Perhaps push back the date where this happens. I think that would probably be the most sensible
until after the winter.
Until after the winter, because obviously lots of people are saying at the moment that it's cruel to bring this in sort of September or October, just before we're potentially heading for a cold snap. It could be that Rachel Reeves says, this is something that we have to do, but we won't bring it in until next March or something like that.
Yes, I mean, they should have brought it in the summer.
They should have brought it
when we were all basking in the sunshine, not that we were.
Well, there hasn't been any.
Yeah, and thinking, it's a bit too hot. That's the time to bring in a winter fuel cut, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. But Keir Starmer hasn't had much chance.
No.
He's been a busy, busy man.
OK, Olivia Utley, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
Very bad timing for him. OK, now talking of timing, it's now 50 years since the Hawk aircraft first took to the skies. The plane has been exported to 22 countries from the BAE Systems factory in East Yorkshire, and it's still used by the world's most famous aerobatics team, of course, the Red Arrows. They fly Hawks. Our reporter Anna Riley went along to a special exhibition in honour of its 50th anniversary. Here's her report.
The Hawk aircraft's maiden flight was in August 1974. It lasted 53 minutes and reached a height of 20,000 feet, heralding the launch of the world's most successful military training aircraft. And 5 decades on, the Hawk is still in service and flown by the Red Arrows. In honour of its 50th anniversary, David Wilson Homes launched an exhibition at their new Hawkview development in Brough, next to the former BAE Systems runway.
Most air forces around the world strive to be as good as our own RAF. So really, you know, the fact that the UK's always chosen Hawk has been massive for us, you know, in those export campaigns. The basic platform, you know, is a really good aircraft to fly. It's very forgiving. You know, it's great for teaching, you know, young pilots how to operate. But then it's really how we've kept that current with the, you know, the mission systems upgrades, so the type of software that we're putting into it. It really does equip them, you know, for those frontline fighters such as Typhoon and F-35.
Former staff members who worked on the Hawk shared their memories of the iconic plane at the event.
I first experienced the Hawk in 1986 and the cockpits, which I lent to build. When you see the Red Arrows go over, no matter where you see them in the world, very, very fortunate, and it gives me a little smile, and I just think I've been part, be it a small part, of the 50 years of the manufacturing of the Hawk.
Because it seems to have been around forever, and it's the best training aircraft ever in the world, as proved by its sales figures. It's just such an iconic little aeroplane, and it just does everything that it's meant to do so well.
It was, for a time, the only aircraft within BAE Systems that was being designed and built and supported from one site.
BAE Systems stopped manufacturing parts for the Hawk in 2020, but still support the aircraft.
We work on the Hawk, but the mission planning and the mission systems, so it's more software-based and kind of what they do for planning of the missions, for training and kind of showing like how you would fly a certain path and stuff like that.
The company are currently working on engineering projects, including Tempest Next Generation combat aircraft and the Dreadnought ballistic submarines. Anna Riley, GB News, Brough.
Thanks, Anna Riley.
Do love a Red Arrow.
Yes, so do I.
Absolutely fun.
We're very proud of them, aren't we?
Yeah.
They are the best. Now, travellers are being told to expect widespread disruption this bank holiday weekend. What's new? As delays and congestion are predicted across key roads and rail routes.
Airports are expecting more than 2 million people through their doors on what is predicted to be the busiest weekend for travel this year. Simon Calder gave us the...
Friday before a bank holiday weekend does always seem to spell travel-mageddon, and particularly if you were going by train, wherever you looked, there were problems. Of course, Storm Lillian, which now seems to have sort of blown through, loads and loads of fallen trees everywhere, particularly in Wales, northwest England. Halfway through the afternoon, Northern Trains just said, do not travel. We cannot run a reliable service. East Coast Main Line blocked because something was in the wires between Doncaster and York, and a problem which is going to continue right through the weekend is the Honiton Tunnel, which is on the lovely line which goes from London Waterloo to Exeter in Devon.
Which is very beautiful, on a good day.
It is. It's absolutely beautiful, but it's also closed. And so, therefore, that's not going to be working.
Why?
Because they've got mud slip. And they're cleaning out the mud, but it's going to take them quite some time. So we've now moved from the, oh, my goodness, it's a storm, everything's shut down, to... well, we knew these things were going to shut down, and now we're on to the planned engineering work, which still happens at bank holidays, even though arguably more people are travelling at bank holidays than do, for instance, on Mondays, which is the really quiet day now because half the people don't commute like they used to. So the biggest problems are on the East Coast Main Line. From about 8 o'clock this evening, they're going to close the London end of this line, which runs to Yorkshire, North East England and Scotland. It's going to stay closed until Monday morning. Some trains will be running as far south as lovely St Neots in Cambridgeshire, where you can get on a bus and then you can go to Bedford and then you can catch the train to St Pancras, which is quite close to King's Cross, which might have been where you were trying to get to. Lots of people actually in Edinburgh for the festival who are trying to head back and going to have some interesting times. They might think, well, that's no problem, I'll go on the West Coast main line.
And?
Unfortunately, lots of work, can you believe it, at the Euston end of this line, which goes to the West Midlands, North West England and Scotland, to do with HS2, even though HS2 won't be along for a couple of decades in Euston. And so they're closing a lot of lines there, reduced services, and then various other points along the line there's work. And if you're thinking, well, can't get to Scotland... well, hang on. If you're thinking you can't go to Scotland, let's go to beautiful Wales, and you're thinking of going from Paddington Station in London, well, you're going to have a very pretty journey on your way to Cardiff and Swansea, because you're going to be going to Gloucester, since the Severn Tunnel junction is closed. So, yeah, wherever you're going... It's
so you go to Wales, you're going to go up into Gloucester in the middle and then down, so you don't have to go over the bridge.
But you're not going to be getting on a bus, which a lot of people will like. Sorry, the train normally goes in a tunnel, but they've closed that. So yeah, it's going to be quite scenic, and it's going to take about an hour longer.
Well, good luck to anyone trying to get anywhere this bank holiday weekend.
But if you don't want to go anywhere, just get under the duvet today, make a cup of tea and watch GB News, because the weather's going to be awful anyway, isn't it? So you might as well just stay and watch us, I think.
Meanwhile, at 17 minutes past 8, let's have a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom this morning.
And a major manhunt is underway in Germany after a stabbing at a festival there that left 3 people dead and 5 people seriously injured. Police have declared a major incident in the western city of Solingen after a man is said to have begun attacking passers-by at random just before 10 p.m. The industrial city was actually celebrating 650 years since it was founded.
The former footballer and BBC presenter Jermaine Jenas says he is ashamed and deeply sorry as he admitted to sending inappropriate messages to a female colleague. The 41-year-old, who's been married for 13 years, has told The Sun newspaper he's let down his family, friends and colleagues and the women involved, and is now seeking help. Despite the scandal, he insists he's done nothing illegal, claiming the exchanges were between consenting adults.
This is completely on me. I'm 100% in the wrong, and I accept full responsibility for that. And it's something that obviously I need to address and look at myself. The family situation is the things that first is at the forefront of my mind that I'm trying to just piece back together. But I've also got to be able to kind of look myself in the mirror and understand where I've gone wrong, and understand that this is on me. It's not anybody else. There's nobody else to blame here.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says he's suspending his independent presidential bid and will instead back Donald Trump. Some of his famous Kennedy family say the decision is a betrayal of their values, calling it a sad ending to a sad story. But the nephew of former President JFK believes his presence in the race would actually help Democratic nominee Kamala Harris.
How did the Democratic Party choose a candidate that has never done an interview or debate during the entire election cycle? We know the answers. They did it by weaponizing the government agencies. They did it by abandoning democracy. They did it by suing the opposition and by disenfranchising American voters.
Thanks very much for getting in touch. Quite a few people asking what is wrong with RFK Jr.'s voice. Apparently he's got some very complex condition to do with his larynx, and has had to undergo various different types of treatments and surgeries. That's why he's got that sort of croaky voice. There you are. Right now, 20 minutes past 8, let's find out how the weather's affecting you. Aidan McGiven.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. Staying cool and blustery this weekend, still some rain around, but also some sunshine. It's not going to rain everywhere all the time, but there will be a lot of rain around this morning for the Midlands, East Anglia, the south and southeast. And in fact, for the southeast of England, that rain, several hours of heavy rain, could cause some issues, localised flooding, transport disruption. It does slowly peel away during the early part of the afternoon, followed by bright spells, but also frequent showers into the afternoon. So it's going to feel cool with a gusty breeze, especially towards the northwest of the UK. Unseasonably cool with temperatures in the mid to high teens in many places. The evening brings further showers into the Midlands, the south and southeast of England, heavy downpours. Brighter skies, I think, for Wales and the southwest. Still a few showers, but otherwise mostly fine. And for northern England, a generally fine end to the day with some decent sunshine. Further showers to come for Northern Ireland, as well as western Scotland, even some more prolonged rain at times, accompanied by that gusty wind. But some good shelter there for eastern Scotland, with some late sunshine expected. Clearing skies overnight as finally any showers move away from the southeast, but further showers will arrive into western and northern parts of the country. These will be lighter and fewer compared with the daytime, and there'll be a decent chance of lighter winds and lengthy clear spells, leading to a cool start to Sunday with temperatures in the high single figures in some places. Further wet and breezy conditions arrive into Northern Ireland, western Scotland, Wales and the northwest during Sunday morning. I'd say it's a damp day for many on Sunday, with those outbreaks of rain moving east, but drier and brighter towards the southeast, mostly dry here, and some brighter weather for the far north of Scotland later on. Again, a cool day with a gusty wind, highs of 20 Celsius.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
OK, time for the Great British Giveaway now. Your chance to win 30 grand in tax-free cash. You've got to be in it to win it, and you've got to take part by 5 p.m. this Friday, because that's when the lines close. Here's how.
It's the final week to see how you could win an incredible £30,000 in cash. It's extra cash that could really make a difference to your coming year. You could find yourself on that holiday you've always wanted to take, buy that treat that always seemed out of reach, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. Time is ticking. Get your entry in now. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Right, do stick with us. Still to come, should the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, do a U-turn on her decision to cut the winter fuel payments? That's next.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes, she could have said stump.
You made my argument for me.
My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done. Or I can become something different. Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
EasyJet is launching a new recruitment drive focused on attracting cabin crew members over 50 and those even considering retirement.
Well, the initiative is called Returnships and is inspired by research that suggests that 75% of people over 50 years old believe that now is the ideal time to embark on a new career.
Joining us now to discuss what it takes to embark on a second career as cabin crew is Helen Williams. Good morning, Helen.
Hi, good morning, Helen.
Welcome. Just touching down in our studio.
It is. I've had a few days off and now I'm here.
So you are now cabin crew.
I am.
What inspired you to get into it? What did you do before? How did it all come around?
Oh, so when I graduated, I took an office job with my grad scheme, and that job lasted 6 months, and I started working for a European carrier. I did just over 5 years at that European carrier and had an absolutely fabulous time. I then went on to a wet lease operation with an Irish carrier and another mainline UK carrier. I then decided to have time out. I had a business, I had a family, I had children, and last autumn I decided, why not? Let's go back and do it all again. So returning to that European carrier that I'd worked at when I was in my early 20s.
And what is that like for you now, returning that bit older, having that life experience, having your children? Do you think that's been a benefit to you?
It's absolutely been a benefit. I mean, the amount of parents that thank me for helping me with their small children when they're crying on a flight. I am that person now.
When you went back for a second time, did you notice more sort of older people amongst your sort of colleagues?
I did. So when I returned onto my initial course in March of this year, just over half the course were over the age of 30.
Wow.
Which was absolutely phenomenal. And I was expecting to return and be with a lot of younger, 18, 19, 24. I was expecting to be that dinosaur. And that first day of training, to find out that I wasn't the dinosaur, you have no idea how exciting that was. And they've gone on, that particular group, to be phenomenal crew members.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Arlene Foster on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast. Now, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, is under pressure to rethink her cuts to winter fuel payments.
Yeah, it comes as thousands of pensioners could receive winter fuel payments too late, and it's being revealed that no impact assessment was taken by the Chancellor before the decision was made.
And then, of course, Ofgem yesterday.
Yes, that's
up
right.
By 10%.
It's like everybody's against the idea, but at the moment she's still clinging on to it. But should she consider a U-turn at this point?
Well, joining us now to debate this is Labour commentator James Mathewson and the former Conservative MP Neil Parish. Very good morning to both of you. James Mathewson, let's start with you. We've even got Labour peers at this point coming forward to condemn what they say will be a terrible effect on the elderly. Do you think that Rachel Reeves should do a U-turn with this one?
It's a really difficult situation, I think, at the moment. I do think it's a situation the Labour Party walked right into, to be honest. It's pretty obvious that it was a bad idea initially. The question of the U-turn now and this early in a new government is purely a political one. I mean, the problem is Labour's credibility with the economy has been rebuilt entirely by Rachel Reeves. It is pinned to her as an individual a lot of the time. It's pinned to economic credibility. If you look at polling numbers, if you look at people who, the surveys about who believes Labour on the economy, there is a real fine line there. And it's something the Labour Party were very delicate about in the lead up to the election. So for an economic policy to be U-turned on this early in the government, I think would be devastating for the Labour Party. I do think it's something they clearly have a plan about. Now, Rachel Reeves is not somebody who acts on impulse. We have to believe that this is part of a larger plan, that something will come good from this, and that unfortunately there are things that cannot be funded. I personally believe, and many people in the party also believe, as we're hearing them voice very clearly this week, that there are other ways to go about this, and there are other things that should be cut, and cuts should be made in other places. But the problem is now they're in this situation. It's purely political. And if they U-turn this early in the government, they risk losing all of that hard-fought credibility.
Yes, and even amongst their own MPs. Neil Parish, what should she do? Have the guts to actually say, all right, I was wrong, or let's delay it, and do a U-turn?
I think so, because I think this is a sort of crass political decision, because it's not really going to save a fortune, and it's going to affect individual pensioners very badly, because some don't claim pension credit when they should. They're very proud of, supporting themselves in life. And so I think and we were always told when I was in Parliament, that you give it to all the pensioners and then you tax it away from the wealthier pensioners. And by the time you means test it and mess about with it, all the costs of doing all of that, and then you have to have special schemes, it's all, in my view, a very bad way to go. You've got £150 a month now increase with the fuel cap rising. All of this is coupled. And I think just going back to the politics of it, I've got a lot of time, even though I'm a Conservative, I've got a lot of time for Rachel Reeves, but I think this one was a silly idea. I think it was a pure political decision. Let's send a message that we're no longer going to gold plate the pensioners. I don't think the pensioners have been gold plated, but I think that was the political message, and I think it's gone horribly wrong. Coupled with the fact that I think energy prices now are some nearly £2,000 more than when Russia invaded the Ukraine, which drove up energy prices. So overall, when you look at the situation politically, that you can argue that yes, the Conservatives left the mess. I don't think anywhere near as much of a mess as Labour's making it out to be, but they got that. But to pick on this particular issue, when, like I said, many pensioners will have to make the choice between heat and eat, and I really think they should review it again. And I think in many ways she'd have more respect if she did, because I think if she ploughs on with this one, my political instincts over the years is that you can see something that's going to die, and this is going to die. Politically, she will have to do something dramatically. Either she'll have to turn around and give most pensioners the money, and in which case she won't save very much, or she will have to do a complete U-turn, because what she can't do is plough on with this, because for a Labour Chancellor to make this type of decision, I think is wrong and very crass. And I also think that, my gut political view is that if you're going to tax or you're going to make savings, make sure they are significant if they're going to cause people a lot of problem. But this is neither really, and what it will do is will just cause particular individual pensioners a lot of grief. And as I said, a lot of pensioners, they like to sort of carry on in life and look after themselves if they can, and they got this payment without being means tested. A lot of pensioners don't like means testing, and of course you see mean testing is okay, but you'll find there's always quite a number of people who just fall outside the barrier, and those are the ones that will particularly suffer. So I think I think she most definitely should look at it again. I was amazed actually when this was one of her first, being a political animal. I thought, my goodness me, I didn't think we'd have something to get our teeth into quite so quickly, because I just couldn't see the argument for it. It's one of those things that saves little money to the Exchequer in the long run, and sends a maximum damage. And I think politically it could be quite damaging for Labour.
OK, gentlemen, we're out of time. Thanks very much both for joining us.
Thank you.
That's James Mathieson and Neil Parish. And it'll be interesting to see if she does.
Yeah, certainly a lot of pressure piling on Rachel Reeves. There was one of our viewers just pointing out Rachel Thieves on the inbox. Do keep your responses to that one coming through. GB News. gbnews.com/your say. Do stay with us, going through the sport and then the papers.
The newspapers.
That's next.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo From 11, only on GB News.
John Steinbeck once said of his 1939 novel, The Grapes of Wrath, that he intended to rip a reader's nerves to rags. Well, GB News sent its famously delicate Stephan Kyriazis to see an adaptation of the work in a London theatre, and somehow he's made it into the studio today. Give people a tiny background about The Grapes of Wrath. It's about the Depression, isn't it?
Yes, it's the Great Plains, which were absolutely ravaged by droughts. They'd completely overfarmed the topsoil, so they had all these huge dust storms, and basically the farms were worthless. So they reckon in the 1930s, about 3.5 million people left this huge central agrarian area of America. And this is a very poor, white working region. Often, many of them headed for the coast to California to this dream of orange groves, white houses, plentiful work. And we focus in on the Joad family. Very poor, very working class. Tom Joad has just got out of prison for homicide in self-defence, and he's played by one of the Treadaways, Luke Treadaway, who I confused with his twin Harry.
Understandably.
They are identical. And so they pack everything into this kind of old-fashioned jalopy. It's a bit like Beverly Hillbillies, but not humorous. I think there's about 13 people crammed, hanging off the sides, and they embark on this odyssey across the country. So there's all these huge themes about migration, about prejudice. They are viewed as an underclass by other Americans. So although they're migrants, they're not quite immigrants, but they're treated very poorly, as almost subhuman. When they get there, the dream turns out to be false, the pay is terrible, and then very often when they take the job the next day, the pay is halved. It's a terrible life.
It's a very angry novel.
It's an angry, dark novel.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Time to talk sport. Not only is it the US Open just round the corner.
Why not
corridor? No, down the corridor, absolutely. But let's talk, rather than talk about Jermaine Jenas, which we have done a lot, take us into the Premier League fixtures and Man City.
Yes, exactly. Well, Manchester City, they've won all before them in the last few years, won the treble in 22-23. But every time they win something, Anne, there's this little asterisk next to it. Well, not formally, but there's a cloud over their achievements. Have they been cheating? Did they do it while they were receiving financial inducements? Were there financial irregularities around the place? Were they inflating the value of sponsorship deals? Were they paying players and managers off the books? I should say that they strenuously deny any of this. But they're up against the Premier League next month. We think we'll hear a verdict next year. There'll be appeals left, right and centre. However, their manager, Pep Guardiola, is just fed up with it, and he's been saying ahead of the match against Ipswich today that he wants it resolved as quickly.
Yes, I bet he does.
It's wishful thinking, though. It's not going to happen because
it must affect morale.
Well, he says not. He says that players are paid enough now to say, look...
Yeah, but money isn't everything. You want to be proud of the club you pay for.
Yes, you do, but then I think the feeling is that none of the charges, or very few of the charges, apply to his time in charge. It's all before that. So I don't know how much of this will stick on the current generation of players. However, it shouldn't overshadow everything they've done. I mean, they're still nonetheless an outstanding team, and that's why he wants their name cleared completely. But, the Premier League will have something else to say about it. And as I say, they're up against Ipswich today. A great game tonight as well, 5:30. Arsenal against Aston Villa. Quite poignant for them as well, Ellie, because they lost 2 games against Aston Villa last season, and that probably put paid to their title ambitions. And then out of the blocks, first of all, Brighton against Manchester United. Have Manchester United turned the corner? They won last week against Fulham, albeit unconvincingly. And Brighton tends to be the team that they struggle against. I think they've lost 5 of the last 6 matches against them. And if I can take you into the tennis as well, Emma Raducanu, 3 years on from when she won that maiden Grand Slam, so far her only Grand Slam at Flushing Meadow in New York in spectacular fashion. I've never seen a breakout performance like that. And then 3 years on, I don't think anyone would have predicted that things would have flatlined for her in quite the way they have in the last 3 years, but there have been signs this year that she's recovering from injury, she's had the surgery, she's had the changes in personnel, in her coaching staff.
She must have grown up a bit too, actually, when you think of it, the 3 years since.
She's only 21, you know.
Yeah, I know, but...
It's astonishing, isn't it?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I still think she's got a long way to go.
I think so as well.
She'll have a long career.
That's what I was thinking. She may have matured.
People are writing her off already, aren't they? But I think, no, She's still only 21.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that, as I say, there are signs this year that things are turning for her. She's gone slightly deeper in the slams. She's done OK in some of the ATP events as well. And if she gets a reasonable draw this time, who knows what can happen? But to go through the entire tournament in 2021 without even losing a set
it was astonishing.
was just astonishing. It really was. And let's just hope she can get back to that, because we don't have too many contenders in the men's side of the draw at the moment with the vacuum left behind by Andy Murray.
Yeah. Aidan, thank you very much.
See you in a bit.
Thank you.
OK, and we should have, hopefully, plenty of time to go through the newspapers with Emma and Candice.
Patrick Christie's Tonight. Weekdays from 9 p.m.
Should footballers just stop taking the knee? It's time for our head-to-head.
I don't want to see people on their knees. I want to see the FA or UEFA or all of those FIFA all leading from the top. And that would be that if half of the players, and it's practically half of them, are of colour, why is that not even remotely replicated at the top? So to me, I just see it as an empty gesture. What is the point of it? It's been going on for years and still not much has happened. And the bottom line is this: these clubs are rich. Football is rich. Everything. If they really wanted to prosecute racists on the terraces, they really could, and they haven't. And they've had years to do it. So why would getting down on one knee now change it? It's not changing anything. It needs to start from the top, and it hasn't.
I do wonder, Jason, whether or not it has much of an impact. I mean, at the start of games or in the highlight shows, etc., match of the day, it does seem like, right, OK, so we'll take the knee, and the commentator will go out of his way or her way to tell us what a wonderful thing this is. And, suspiciously at times I do wonder whether or not the fan sound goes down, because I've been at a few football games where it's not been that well received, but you don't tend to see that in the highlight shows. And then there might be a round of applause to something else, and there might be something else going on, and eventually we get a bit of football. Do the fans actually like this?
I don't know. You have to ask them, to be honest. I think there are many different people why they boo. That people do think it's virtual signalling, that it's done for show. But I think that it can only be a good thing in my mind that we are discussing this, and we all realise I think in 100 years' time, this conversation could still be going on. There still needs to be work done. There still needs to make sure that the Argentinian national side to be singing racist songs about black African-American footballers that now play for the French national side are getting racially abused. That tells me only one thing, that the message is still not getting across.
GB News.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Right, let's have a look through the newspapers with journalist Emma Wolfe and writer and commentator Candice Holdsworth. Emma, take us to... This is fascinating because I don't know very much about it. Please tell us more about the Alzheimer's drug.
I'm so glad you don't, because I'm so excited about this.
Oh, good.
But it's sort of good and bad news.
But there's not just one, there's two.
There's two, and this is real breakthroughs are finally happening. There's 982,000 people already in this country living with dementia. That's set to rise to 1.4 million of us by 2040 living with dementia and or Alzheimer's. So last week we had this really exciting, or a few days ago, we had this really exciting news about lecanemab, which was this breakthrough drug, which I think slows cognitive decline by around 27%, something like that. Now another breakthrough drug, donanemab, which is even more effective. It's a very, very, exciting breakthrough at really slowing down Alzheimer's. And guess what? Both drugs are not going to be funded by the NHS. Both drugs will cost between £20,000 and £30,000 a year. At what cost?
I mean, if you were a patient on it, it would cost you about 20 to 30 grand.
Between 20 to 30,000. Donanemab, the latest one, the really good one, is around 25,000.
So they've both been licensed for use in Britain.
They have been licensed, but NICE are saying that they're probably, an insider is saying they're probably not going to get through because of the funding. The funding doesn't appear to be available on the NHS. And it's such a shame because we're all living longer. We all know people, you know, if we're not going to experience it, we all know parents, grandparents who are getting elderly, frail, who are living into their 80s and 90s.
But wouldn't it also make financial sense? The longer you can prevent somebody having Alzheimer's, the more money you save on their care.
Their care, their hospital care, you know, having falls, all of the kind of ancillary care that they need around that, help with living and shopping and all of that kind of thing. And also, I think it raises the question, what do we pay for and what do we not? Why is someone who gets Alzheimer's not worth £20,000, £30,000 a year, whereas somebody who is living with obesity, for example, or someone who is a smoker, for example, are being treated on the NHS? I think we need to question, you know, if we're going to start rationing care. These are really, really exciting drugs. And I also question how much longer are Eli Lilly and the big drug companies going to pour money into these things if they're not going to get funded on the NHS in terms of the research and development?
Yeah, I mean, they were saying it's because of the side effects you suffer on these drugs, because apparently there's a risk of blood clots. So they were saying having to monitor that is going to be very expensive. I mean, I've been through that recently. About a few weeks ago, I had a suspected bleed on the back of the brain. So I went through 2 CT scans, an MRI scan. I was under constant observation when I was on a hospital ward. So it's a really big thing, I mean, if you have something like that. But I think it is true. I mean, if there's a big upside to be gained from being able to treat someone's Alzheimer's effectively, maybe we need to think about that. And maybe we need to look at reforming spending elsewhere, because I just think maybe a lot of people don't realise this, but as you get older and you start suffering more health-related issues, things start getting very expensive. And I think most people in society would say that healthcare is a big priority. And we should prioritise that, because when you're ill and you are in hospital, you realise how important it is to be able to get that care. And for a lot of people, it would be absolutely unaffordable if we didn't have something like the NHS. I mean, when you've been through the system, when you've been ill, you actually realise how wonderful it is and not to take it for granted. And I think that we should really prioritise it.
Yes, but if you're prioritising within the NHS itself, what do we spend on? I mean, you know, is Alzheimer's drugs more important than IVF treatment for young couples? Or, I mean, that is the terrible balancing act.
But obesity is the reason I mention obesity is not, I'm not slamming anyone, but that's the biggest cost on the NHS because of the other conditions associated, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, all of that. So, I mean, if we're going to start looking at this, then we need to say, OK, we won't pay for that and we will pay for... This is about older people living with dignity. And as you say, slowing cognitive decline means that you're living for longer, in your own body, in your own mind, and not feeling confused and alone and, you know, and getting sick.
Candice, let's take a look at the Daily Telegraph, shall we? Because I am fascinated by this, because the Russian people were told there was a special military operation back in February 2022. And it would only last 3 days, and they're going into Ukraine and it will all be done. And here we are. And it's still going, this conflict. And apparently it is getting through to the Russian people now. It's sowing doubt in the country about Putin.
Yeah, so this is a story in the Daily Telegraph, and the Defence Secretary, John Healey, says this latest incursion into Kursk is maybe going to raise questions amongst the Russian people about this operation, like you say, that has been so carefully managed, the narrative by Putin, exactly what it is, what it's about. And maybe now they'll start to question things. I'm not sure. I'm very sceptical, because all the Russian experts over the years have said they just do not have the same political discourse that we have in the West, the same sort of dynamic political discourse. It is carefully managed. I mean, there just isn't the range of public opinion that you would find here. Journalists don't have anywhere near the levels of freedom. Social media is carefully managed. And also what Putin may try to do is he may try to spin this in propaganda terms. You know, they are in the motherland. We now need to come back a bit harder. Whether or not he'll do that, we don't know, because, I mean,
It is extraordinary, though, that we're at this point, aren't we?
Yes.
I mean, until now, we've always been talking about Ukraine defending itself, stopping them taking over Kyiv, and now they're giving them a taste of their own medicine, almost, aren't they?
It's quite clever, because everyone's expecting negotiations to happen maybe next year. They're going to be brought together to talk. And now Ukraine has a piece of Russian territory. They're going to be able to negotiate from a stronger position. They're not quite in this weaker position anymore. They managed to punch a hole in the vulnerability, which will serve them well, I think. Whether or not they'll be asked to give up a piece of territory, we don't know. I mean, everyone talks about this in terms of whatever the boundaries are. So we'll have to see.
It's a very long borderline between Ukraine,
Ooh,
isn't it?
yeah.
Very long.
Yeah.
Which one did you want to go
This
to
one,
next?
please.
Yes, I thought so.
Emma, let's have a look at this story because it's quite a controversial one. Lily Allen returning her dog.
Yes.
Why?
She returned a rescue dog that she had taken on because she was talking on her podcast that she hosts with Nikita Oliver. And her dog had basically eaten the passports. She adopted a dog, and this was during lockdown.
It's so cute.
Oh, it's lovely.
And it ate her passport and the passports of her children. And it was during the COVID period. It was an extremely difficult time to replace all your travel documents. She ate all three of our passports, and they had our visas in. And I cannot. This is Lily Allen talking. I cannot tell you how much money it cost me to get everything replaced because it was in COVID, and so it was just an absolute logistical nightmare. She couldn't come back to the UK to bring her girls back to see their dad in the UK for 4 or 5 months, and I just couldn't look at her, the dog. I was like, "You've ruined my life."
But Emma, I just think
passports weren't the only thing she ate. She was a very badly behaved dog, and I really tried very hard with her, but it just didn't work out, and the passports were the straw that broke the camel's back.
I'm sorry, but I just think this is what dogs do.
Yes,
if you
what
leave
dogs
your
do.
passports out, if you leave documents out around a lovely little puppy like that, they are going to eat it. That's what they do.
If you leave a pizza box out,
That's what
even
dogs
if the
do.
pizza's been eaten by the humans, the dog, you come down in the morning and there's pizza box all over the floor.
I remember finding in the nappy bin, which is not something that you go through, you just bin it.
Yeah.
In the nappy bin, I found our passports, my passport, my baby's passport, and the credit cards that he'd posted into the bin. I didn't return him to the shelter, although I wanted to. But that was scary, really, and that was right in the middle of lockdown, the beginning of lockdown.
I can understand her being cross.
You'd be cross, but
this makes people angry because people love their dogs. I'm not a dog person, but I can see the anger
But
on this
especially
one.
with a rescue dog. I mean, you've bought a dog probably
enough.
from difficult circumstances. There needs to be some understanding of what you have literally brought into your life.
People are saying
And
to
that's what
her,
dogs
you know,
do.
there are no badly behaved dogs, only badly behaved owners. She's now looking to get another rescue dog.
Well, she should.
Which I think there's going to be, will any rescue shelter give her another dog?
Well, they should.
You have to have a lot of patience with dogs. I mean, we've done the absolute worst things, leaving food that's within reach of them. We had a barbecue last year, and my husband left steaks on the counter. And we went in to get them, and we were like, where are the steaks? And then we realised the dog, she jumped up and eaten these 2 huge steaks. And I was like, but we shouldn't have left them so close to the counter. It's kind of our fault. And I could see my husband was just like, keeping it in, basically.
We're told, aren't we, that their noses are 20,000 times, 20,000 times more sensitive to smell than ours are.
Which is
so
why it was...
if you open a can of anything or open a packet of anything, they can smell. That's why they're there straight away, isn't it?
I mean, I can't imagine the passports were that tasty, but
no, it's odd that they should go for
it is odd, but they just like to chew things up, don't they? Really, really destroy
She
things.
should have created it at night if it was like that.
Exactly, and also with 2 young kids, you should just keep your. I've learned you keep your passports and anything valuable away, away even from the edge of the counter, kind of.
But my dog now, she's decided she's a guard dog since we've had children. Like her persona's changed. She does. So now when anyone posts anything through the door, she leaps up, grabs it and shreds it. So we now have to run and grab things before she gets to them.
My dog does one of those cartoon runs when she hears anything at the door, because I've got wooden floors. Her legs go like that. They go round about 20 times. She actually then takes off.
Scrabbling on the wooden
But she
floor.
used to do it during lockdown a lot, when I had an Amazon delivery or anything like that.
Yes.
When I was in the middle of an interview, a remote interview, and I would
She'd be
ding
scrambling.
dong, and she'd go crazy. And in the end, you have to explain while you're doing a live interview. I'm terribly sorry
about the dog.
And do you know that Anne's dog is also called Ellie?
What dog do you have?
She's a Bichon Frise rescue.
Oh.
She's a rescue.
And would you put her back to the rescue centre if she ate your passport?
No, even when I'm furious with her, when she goes through the rubbish, if I'd left the rubbish, and I come down to a kitchen where there's rubbish strewn all over the floor, I get furious with her, but I still wouldn't send her
You
back.
forgive them because you love them.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you. Really good to see you both this morning. Let's have a look at the weather now with Aidan.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. Staying cool and blustery this weekend, still some rain around, but also some sunshine. It's not going to rain everywhere all the time, but there will be a lot of rain around this morning for the Midlands, East Anglia, the south and southeast. And in fact, for the southeast of England, that rain, several hours of heavy rain, could cause some issues, localised flooding, transport disruption. It does slowly peel away during the early part of the afternoon, followed by bright spells, but also frequent showers into the afternoon. So it's going to feel cool with a gusty breeze, especially towards the northwest of the UK. Unseasonably cool with temperatures in the mid to high teens in many places. The evening brings further showers into the Midlands, the south and southeast of England, heavy downpours. Brighter skies, I think, for Wales and the southwest. Still a few showers, but otherwise mostly fine. And for northern England, a generally fine end to the day with some decent sunshine. Further showers to come for Northern Ireland, as well as western Scotland, even some more prolonged rain at times, accompanied by that gusty wind. But some good shelter there for eastern Scotland, with some late sunshine expected. Clearing skies overnight as finally any showers move away from the southeast, but further showers will arrive into western and northern parts of the country. These will be lighter and fewer compared with the daytime, and there'll be a decent chance of lighter winds and lengthy clear spells, leading to a cool start to Sunday with temperatures in the high single figures in some places. Further wet and breezy conditions arrive into Northern Ireland, western Scotland, Wales and the northwest during Sunday morning. I'd say it's a damp day for many on Sunday, with those outbreaks of rain moving east, but drier and brighter towards the southeast, mostly dry here, and some brighter weather for the far north of Scotland later on. Again, a cool day with a gusty wind, highs of 20 Celsius.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could win an incredible £30,000 in cash. It's extra cash that could really make a difference to your coming year. You could find yourself on that holiday you've always wanted to take, buy that treat that always seemed out of reach, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. Time is ticking. Get your entry in now. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is a big old headache because we talk a lot about GP appointments, don't we? But certainly almost everyone I know struggles to see a dentist when they need one.
Yes.
You know the best time to go to a dentist?
When?
2:30. 2:30.
That's actually quite good. It's better than my gags.
The guy that went into Goa, to India, to get his dental treatment, is that what you're talking about?
Well, yeah, so tell us about that. I mean, this is how desperate people are to get treatment now. So what's the story?
OK, the story is a guy couldn't get an appointment at the NHS, so he went all the way to Goa in India to get his dental appointment. Now, I think he probably just wanted to go on holiday, and he thought, I know, why don't I go on holiday to Goa and then get my teeth done? Look, people are travelling in their droves. There's whole aeroplanes full of people with medical tourists. Like in Turkey, you get a whole aeroplane with people with hair implants, things like that.
Well,
so,
yeah. I was going to go to
turkey teeth, isn't it?
Turkey teeth.
Turkey teeth. Well, now we've got
that's when they strip the tooth down and you have these little pegs.
Yes, they strip them down. But in many cases, they strip them down far too low, so the nerve is exposed and it gets infected, and it's exposed to the elements. So you get infection in the tooth, and then you have to essentially take them all off. But by then, the infection spreads so far. I was getting my nails done the other day, which I don't do very often, and my nail technician said to me, "Is your dad still a dentist?" And I said, "Yes." and she said, please, can I have emergency appointment? I went to Turkey and I got my teeth done, and now they look incredible, but I'm in so much pain. They're all infected. She had 15 taken out from the top and 12 from the bottom, and it's an absolute disaster. But this is what people are feeling like they have to do.
So medical tourism doesn't always work.
No, but it shows, doesn't it, Alex, that people can't get their teeth sorted here, so they go elsewhere. Listen, do you floss, by the way?
Don't floss.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning. The Prime Minister and the Chancellor are feeling the heat over those winter fuel payments.
A Labour peer condemns the government over their decision.
But will the government do a U-turn?
As the final body is recovered from the sunken Bayesian Superyacht, Italian authorities are preparing to reveal what may have caused the tragedy.
Wild weather combined with a bank holiday. Long weekend, isn't it? Anyway, we're going to see chaos, apparently, on the roads, at the airports, you name it.
Jermaine Jenas speaks out again as he apologises for the scandal, which has seen him sacked by the BBC and dropped by his agency.
This is completely on me. I am 100% in the wrong, and I accept full responsibility for that.
Robert Kennedy Jr. drops out of the race for president and endorses Donald Trump. It's a move which his famously Democrat family have labelled a betrayal of their values.
Away from the Jermaine Jenas scandal, it's a bumper day of Premier League action with 7 matches taking place. We'll hear about England's progress in the cricket, and in tennis we look ahead to the US Open.
It's a wet start to the bank holiday weekend for southern and southeastern parts of the UK, with further showers elsewhere. Will there be any brighter weather this weekend? I'll have the full details coming up soon.
It's just gone 1 minute past 9. Good morning to you. I'm Ellie Costello.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Well, we've got you all going on this Lily Allen story. She had admitted in a podcast that she has given her rescue dog back after the rescue dog ate her and her children's passports. It's got you all talking in gbnews.com/you'll say. Jess says Lily Allen doesn't deserve any pets. She clearly didn't have the brains to put the passport somewhere safe. I have a rescue and she's done way worse, and I wouldn't dream of getting rid of her. That dog had a lucky escape, says Jess.
Actually, Susan says, Anne, I have a bichon too. My little Rosie is gorgeous. But if your little one is leaving rubbish spread out, then with respect, it's your fault for leaving it within her reach. I totally admit, yeah. But I have to remind myself all the time, don't leave any... I have to check all of the downstairs rooms, make sure that there's nothing that could be within Ellie's reach. Because
Ellie's
because otherwise I'll find it chewed up and spewed everywhere.
But this is what dogs do.
Yeah,
I just don't think it's rocket science. Tony says she shouldn't be allowed another dog. She sounds like a spoiled child. Sarah, a clear example of someone who should never own one of these precious animals. Absolutely disgusted. She shouldn't be allowed another one.
But when you take a rescue dog, it's a quid pro quo, isn't it? You understand you're getting a dog that might have been distressed or afflicted with something in the past, and you kind of factor that into your care. Is that right? Unless I've read it wrong, I'm not a dog man.
Yeah, maybe people should do their research a bit more before they have dogs. Do you have a dog, Olivia?
I don't have a dog. I have a cat. I have a very fat cat.
Would you give away your fat cat if they ate your passport?
I wouldn't put it past her to eat our passport. She eats everything, but I would never dream of giving her away. Well, she is enormous. You should see this answer. We don't feed her that much. She's just
so maybe she would eat your passports.
Maybe she's just living off passports. Yeah.
But you wouldn't give her away if that were to
happen.
happen.
I wonder why they go for passports. This is odd that just within.
Well, maybe they don't want their own. Maybe they don't want their owners to go away.
Maybe. Well, maybe she's very hungry. Somebody just said she needs to feed the dog more. And Paul says there needs to be basic dog training for these owners. You shouldn't be leaving any important documents out in front where a dog or cat can get hold of it.
You've got to think of the dog as a bit like a toddler, haven't you?
Yes.
You take lovely, beautiful ornaments that you may own, you put them up high, somewhere where the dog can't get them, or the cat. Actually, cats can get up high.
Is that your dog?
Oh, that's my Ellie.
That's Ellie the dog.
See, she looks cute and innocent there, but I'm telling you.
She is so cute.
She is cute.
You rolled out the red carpet for her.
Innocent, absolutely. Innocent she ain't, though. She really... Because she's also got that... when I come down the stairs, I can tell if she's been, mangling something.
Jeez, can you?
Because she looks
You can tell on her
She starts
eyes.
to sort of melt into the carpet, and I can do, what have you done? And she goes, But you have to be careful to blame her, not to blame her for things that aren't her fault.
Oh, bless her.
But she will eat anything.
Well, she's very, very cute. And finally, one from Joe who says, pets are family members, so why has Lily Allen given away a family member? Well, do keep those views coming in.
She shouldn't have said it. She's going
just
to come
don't
in for
admit it.
such criticism.
I don't know. Yeah. gbnews.com/you'll say. Keep those views coming in. Certainly got you going this morning.
Now we're looking back, but only 50 days, because it may seem like ancient history. You may have thought he's been Prime Minister forever already. But Keir Starmer today celebrates 50 days as Prime Minister.
And what a busy 50 days it's been for the Prime Minister, with renewed pressure now on the government over their decision to scrap winter fuel payments.
So everybody's wondering, are they going to do a U-turn on this one? Because it really has got them into political hot water.
Yeah.
Here's GB News' political correspondent, Olivia Utley. Which way would you think on this? Is she going to do a U-turn?
I think there's probably going to be a bit of a fudge, a sort of semi-U-turn. So perhaps delaying the introduction of the scrapping of winter fuel payments. As it is, it was supposed to be coming in this autumn. It might be that instead it's brought in next spring, so that if we do have a cold snap this winter, then pensioners won't be sort of particularly exposed. The problem for the Labour Party is that there really is criticism on this from all sides. You've got sort of Martin Lewis, the financial guru. You've got John McDonnell, Jeremy Corbyn's former Shadow Chancellor, who's recently been had the whip removed. He was a Labour MP up until recently, had the whip removed over rebelling over child benefits. He's come out and said that they need to change their minds. Then you've got the Conservatives tabling an early day motion, it's called, essentially trying to push the government into having a debate about this in the House of Commons. And I expect if this rumbles on, which it probably will, particularly as there's not that much going on in politics at the moment, you could end up in a situation where there are more Labour MPs who are prepared to rebel over this. So I think we will see some sort of fudge in the coming weeks.
Because people can't believe that this policy has come from a Labour government. And you look at the pay settlements that have been made with the public sector workers, with the unions, and it does make people think, who are you prioritising here?
Well, Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer have really painted themselves into a corner over the election campaign, because they promised over and over again that they wouldn't raise taxes on working people, so that's national insurance, VAT or income tax. But they also promised quite a lot of quite expensive things, one of which was sorting out these public sector disputes, so strikes. And to do that, they have had to raise the salaries of lots and lots of public sector workers, train drivers at the moment, junior doctors, but you can expect to see that replicated across perhaps nurses, maybe teachers too, over the coming months. And to do that, they need to find some money. They can't find it from tax rises. They can't borrow more because they promised that they're going to be much more fiscally balanced than the previous government. So their only options is to find other little places. So one of those options is pensioners, raiding pensioners.
Yes, a lot of people have been in touch already this morning saying she's more in favour of public sector workers than pensioners.
Yeah.
Well, I think one thing is that the Conservatives tend to be, I mean, this is obviously a huge generalisation, but the Conservatives tend to be better at getting the sort of grey vote out. And so for 13 years, pensioners have not been touched at all. And in fact, you know, there are young people campaigns who say that that pensioners have had too easy a time of it in recent years, particularly given the housing crisis at the moment, pensioners living in large houses, young families unable to get on the housing ladder, etc. And part of the reason for that is because the Conservatives really didn't want to upset or anger pensioners. The Labour government coming in now with this really big majority, much younger majority than the previous government, might think that it has a little bit of leeway to play with the budgets a little bit and hand over some of that money to public sector workers. But as you say, I mean, lots of people are going to be feeling really betrayed by this. And I don't think this is going to be the end of the public sector pay rises either, because obviously now you've given this 5.5% rise to train drivers and more to junior doctors, there will be calls across the public sector for it to be replicated. Once that happens, where are you going to find the money for the next set of pay rises? Is that going to be from pensioners as well?
It's not a good look at the moment, is it? Because they came in, well, they were campaigning on the fact that everything they were going to spend had been fully costed. and the books would balance. And already they seem to be in a financial mess.
Well, exactly. I mean, we all sort of predicted that before the election that what was going to happen is that Labour would get into power, they would start looking at the books and they'd say, oh, I'm so sorry, we had no idea things were quite as bad as they were. Now we're going to have to raise things. And that is exactly what they've done. And it does look a little bit disingenuous.
Olivia, stay with us. We just want to take this to you. We're going to cross live now to Palermo in Sicily. So the chief prosecutor of Termini Imerese is holding a press conference there. It's after the Bayesian superyacht sunk on Monday, and reports now suggesting that a manslaughter investigation into the sinking of that superyacht is being considered by Italian authorities. This is all being held, obviously, in Italian, but no charges have been brought so far. Of course, it's been a focus on the recovery operation of those bodies from that vessel. But the focus of the investigators has now shifted into what caused the Bayesian superyacht to capsize.
I mean, that
and
is
sink.
obviously going to be the next question, isn't it? Is the story itself, of course, is tragic. Now they've found the final body of the young daughter, Hannah. And there will be very, very upsetting and terribly sad funerals. But I think once those are over, it's quite right, isn't it, that the authorities look at what caused it.
Yes, because it happened so quickly, didn't it? And so close to the shore. The authorities are examining videos and photographs taken on the night before the storm, and local reports were saying that they were actually playing music and dancing on that yacht till about 2 o'clock in the morning. They're also looking at the last minutes of the Bayesian superyacht, as well as CCTV footage of the port, and interviews have also been taking place with the yacht's captain, who was 51, and the first officer, 22 years old. They have both been interviewed in the past few days, and the captain was interviewed for more than 2 hours about the minutes before that vessel sank.
I mean, it's terribly tragic and sad, but that's the right thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have to look into what happened in those final few minutes and why the yacht sank so dramatically and so quickly.
And there are questions as well as to why most of the crew, only one crew member died. Only one, it's still devastating, but one crew member died. The other 6 people here were passengers, and there are questions as to how the crew managed to stay safe. And it's the passengers who were victims.
And it could well be that this all happened in the middle of the night, where the guests on board and the owner and his family had already gone to bed, but the crew were up because they sensed that the weather was getting bad, so they were working. But the fact that they were up on deck coping meant that they could, when the yacht eventually turned over, they could actually swim out, whereas the family and guests were inside their rooms. And it may well be something that simple an explanation, but of course it must be investigated.
Of course it has to be investigated.
The other very strange thing about the whole story is that Mr. Lynch's co-defendant in the very protracted 10-year-long battle in America about their financial arrangements, which, of course, they were, again, completely cleared in the end. He died on the same day in a completely different part of the world, in Britain. He was jogging and was in a car accident. And there's nothing at all to suggest that there was any foul play in any way at all, but they died on the same day.
Yeah, and the woman in that car crash stayed behind, so we do know who.
Yes.
Was the part of that accident.
It was a complete
accident. But it is so very sad, isn't it? These 2 men who were in the second stage of their life, they had been vindicated, they'd been cleared in court, and actually this was a celebration on the Bayesian superyacht for Mike Lynch and his family, celebrating with the lawyers who had essentially freed him from being incarcerated in the United States. So it is just so distressing for that family, and especially Hannah, who was the last victim whose body was recovered.
18 years old and just got a place at Oxford.
Yeah, and apparently I was just reading in the papers this morning, she had got into Oxford University to study English literature, and when she picked up her A-level results last week, she went around the English department and hugged every single one of her English teachers to say thank you so much for your support for getting me into Oxford. Apparently she was just so lovable. I'm just reading here, someone beaming with a smile, cheeky, endlessly caring, passionately mad, hilarious, and had the brightest of futures. So the tributes coming in to Hannah Lynch, just 18 years old, just got into Oxford University last week. You can't even imagine what her mother and what the other daughter is going through, just 21 years old herself.
I know a lot of people have already been in touch saying, oh, you're only talking about them because they're rich people. It's not that at all. I think it's just a terrible tragedy.
Yeah.
Shows it can happen to absolutely anyone, doesn't it?
Any part of this story is remarkable in itself. I mean, you talk about the trial in the US and you talk about the legal dispute and then you talk about the Superyacht, but to have it all together, the co-defendant being killed in that car crash at the weekend.
On the same day, I mean, I can't get over
it's
that.
Just remarkable.
Yeah.
But these are live pictures that we're showing you now of Italian investigators who are launching now a manslaughter probe.
I'm sure we will get
Superyacht.
a translation for you probably a bit later on in the day. And
I think I've actually just got one coming through now, so I can bring that to you. So this is what we're getting in the translation. This is from the chief prosecutors, who said there's been silence around the disaster. It's necessary, therefore, to publicise the fact that we can't make comments until inquiries have been made properly. He says the yacht was already sunk by the time that the Coast Guard arrived. We can't comment on that at this stage, but you do need to understand that on the 19th of August, 4 o'clock in the morning, the Coast Guards were alerted to the disaster. The Coast Guards arrived on the spot immediately, but the yacht was already sunk.
Went down in 60 seconds.
So we're getting a bit more detail there about those moments when the Malaysian Superyacht sank. We'll bring any more developments, any more lines out of that press conference as we have them here on GB News.
OK, let's change the mood. And this is a good news story, and I think it's pretty good idea.
It is a good idea.
This council, Sandwell Council in the West Midlands, came up with this idea of getting children energised about recycling. And so they decided to hold a competition for children to come up with really interesting names for their, I think, 12 new recycling lorries. It's a lovely story, and they came up with some really cool names. Here's our West Midlands reporter, Jack Carson.
What do you get when you ask a bunch of school children to name your new fleet of recycling lorries? The answer is genius. From Wheelie Wonka to Binderella, Recyclosaurus Rex to Binbo Baggins, these newly named trucks will be hitting Sandwell's roads and collecting recyclable waste in the next few months. Cabinet Member for Highways and Environment at Sandwell Council, Keith Alcock, says the competition to name the trucks has started a conversation in the community.
It's very important we keep recycling rates going up. We all know it's good for the environment, and it's also good for Sandwell Council in terms of its finances. General disposal costs are going up higher and higher. Recycling is a way of keeping the cost down. So it's very important to get this engagement, and hopefully with over 200 conversations being held in households, we started that wider conversation.
The 12 winners of the competition and their families were invited to a special event this week to see their newly named lorries up close and even have a go at loading them themselves.
I feel proud. I feel amazing. I was thinking of it on Star Wars, and I know that was a famous character.
Do you know what? It's been brilliant. It's been really great to be part of this kind of scheme for Sandwell. Boston's a real black country name, so we come up with that straight away. We're black country born and bred, and recycling is really important, so it's fantastic to give this to the younger generation, to see our name on one of these recycling bins in our street.
Because we recycle and we see them and it's big, so we call it Rex.
So what's the name?
Recyclosaurus Rex.
There you go.
Statistics published by the government in January showed England's recycling rate fell by 0.8 percentage points to 43.3% in 2022-23. For senior contract manager at Serco, Tony Marston, that makes education about waste even more important.
It's a shame that we've got so much waste in the industry and in this country, and we need to make sure that we dispose of it properly, and less goes to landfill and less goes to incineration. The most we can recycle, the better.
Sandwell Council say the competition has been a valuable opportunity to teach young people in the community about recycling, as well as being really fun too. Jack Carson, GB News, Sandwell.
And there are some really cool names. You saw a couple of them there. I like Recyclosaurus Rex.
Yeah, that's a good one, isn't
Very
it?
good. Obi-Wan Binobi. We saw both of those, actually, but there were
Binderella
others.
was my favourite.
Binderella is a good one. Binbo Baggins.
Frank Binner.
Cat Wheelie.
Cat Wheelie is a good one,
Yeah,
I do
that's
think.
And that one, Arya Bin.
Arya Bin. Yeah, that's good. And Wheelie Wonka. Very creative.
Good on you, Sandwell Council. That was a good idea.
Yeah, very good. Well, it got us talking, didn't it?
Well, yeah, and people in the local area will be able to look out and see what bin they've got. You know, it gets everybody talking about recycling.
Yeah.
It doesn't convince me. I hate recycling.
I know.
But I do it because you have to, but it's sorting stuff.
It's a bit annoying, isn't
And
it?
there's always something that's difficult to know how to recycle.
Start reading the fine print.
Like you've got something that's plasticized, but it's got cardboard stuck to it. It's got some sort of a different sort of plastic top. You think, where do I put it? I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, like with a punnet of grapes, often the punnet itself can be recycled, but the plastic film on the top can't be.
Yes.
So you have to do your reading.
Yeah.
It's all very complicated.
My sister takes it terribly seriously.
Yeah, I know.
Puts
I
on her
find-
rubber gloves and does things, you know, takes bits apart.
I feel like recycling divides us. 'Cause my
Yes.
sister's exactly the same. Is this your sister who's into recycling? Yeah, so my sister loves it. She'd
Yeah,
read
no,
everything
absolutely.
and want
My
to
sister
recycle, whereas I'm
loves
just like,
it.
yeah.
Isn't that weird?
That's fine. I'm just
Yeah.
throw it in the recycling.
I don't mind if she wants to get on with it herself, but making me
divides
do
us.
it or tut-tutting when I don't.
Oh yeah, there's that as well, isn't there? Judgment when you don't do it. Well, keep views coming in this morning, gbnews.com/you'll say.
Yes, it's just hurtling towards 21 minutes past 9. Let's have a look at some of the other news stories that are coming in this morning.
A major manhunt is underway in Germany after a stabbing at a festival there that left 3 people dead and 5 people seriously injured. Police have declared a major incident in the western city of Solingen after a man is said to have begun attacking passers-by at random just before 10 p.m. The industrial city was actually celebrating 650 years since it was founded.
The former footballer and BBC presenter Jermaine Jenas says he is ashamed and deeply sorry as he admitted to sending inappropriate messages to a female colleague. He told The Sun that he's let down his family, friends, colleagues and the women involved. Despite the scandal, he insists he's done nothing illegal, claiming the exchanges were between consenting adults.
This is completely on me. I am 100% in the wrong and I accept full responsibility for that. And it's something that obviously I need to address and look at myself. The family situation is the thing that is at the forefront of my mind that I'm trying to just piece back together. But I've also got to be able to kind of look myself in the mirror and understand where I've gone wrong and understand that this is on me, it's not anybody else, there's nobody else to blame here.
But F. Kennedy Jr. says he's suspending his independent presidential bid and will instead back Donald Trump. Some of his famous Kennedy family say the decision is a betrayal of their values, calling it a sad ending to a sad story. But the nephew of former President JFK believes his presence in the race would actually help the Democratic nominee, Kamala Harris.
How did the Democratic Party choose a candidate that has never done an interview or debate during the entire election cycle? We know the answers. They did it by weaponizing the government agencies. They did it by abandoning democracy. They did it by suing the opposition and by disenfranchising American voters.
Time for the Great British Giveaway now. Your chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash. You've got to hurry though, because lines close at 5 p.m. this Friday. Here's all you need to know.
It's the final week to see how you could win an incredible £30,000 in cash. And you could be getting that winning call from us to tell you that you're our next Great British Giveaway winner.
I can't believe this. Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon.
I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh, you shocked me. I never won a penny in my life.
If I was there, I'd buy you a drink.
Get your entry in now for another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash. Text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2 or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Still to come, it's the Ukrainian Day of Independence. And isn't it amazing that 3 years on, they're still independent? We're going to be speaking to a Ukrainian MP. That's next.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
A court on Wednesday ruled that a teenager was wrongly ignored before being forced into end-of-life care. Superyacht Thirumalesh, who was 19, died last year after being prevented from travelling abroad for treatment after doctors said her condition was incurable. Doctors said Ms. Thirumalesh's objection to their decision was unreasonable and that she should have all life-sustaining treatment ended and be put on a palliative care pathway. Last August, a ruling said that the teenager lacked mental capacity to make her own decisions, but 3 judges in the Court of Appeal overturned that decision last week. Lawyers said the move reaffirms the right of patients to disagree with their doctors. The teenager remained fully conscious while being treated by the University Hospital's Birmingham NHS Foundation Trust. Well, to discuss this tragic case, Superyacht's father, Thirumalesh, and brother, Varshan, join me now. Thank you so much for joining me in these desperately sad circumstances. This is very important for other people who may find themselves in a similar position, that they will be able to make decisions about their own care with the support of their families, rather than the sometimes arrogance of the medical profession who think that they know best. So you must be, I hope, very reassured by this judgment that Superyacht has achieved something for other people.
Yes, definitely, because this arrogance transformed into cruelty towards my sister's care and ill treatment of the whole family. They think they are on the top of the hierarchical spectrum, and they treated us like we were on the bottom of the lower end of the chains, or rather as low class, but we ensured that our class remained.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Just to bring you some breaking news from Italy, there's been a press conference in Sicily this morning. A manslaughter investigation has now officially been opened into the Bayesian Superyacht disaster after it sank on Monday. This is the pictures live now from that press conference. Authorities there have opened that manslaughter probe. We're going to have a full summary of what happened at that press conference after the next
obviously
break.
we were talking earlier about the fact that an investigation would only be the right thing to do. But if they're now opening it as a manslaughter investigation, you have to question whether they're looking at any one particular person or several people, or whether it's very sort of open-ended at the moment. But we'll be finding out more for you as the day goes through. Now to another part of the world entirely, and isn't it remarkable when you think of, basically since I started here on GB News, Kyiv in Ukraine has been under attack. And today, Kyiv marks 33 years since it declared independence from the Soviet Union. So it's basically Ukraine's Independence Day today.
Yes, but war is indeed rumbling on 2.5 years after that invasion. Sir Keir Starmer has told Ukrainians that the UK will back them today and always and stand by their side for as long as it takes.
Well, let's cross over to Kyiv right now, where Ukrainian MP Kira Rudik joins us now. A very good morning to you. Is it appropriate to say Happy Independence Day? What would be the right thing to say to you all?
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me. Well, thank you so much for those congratulations. Today of all days, we are so happy and so proud that we live in independent country, and we are happy to share with the world once again the statement that the freedom is not free. We are so grateful for everyone who has been supporting us on this path. And we today are still hopeful that one day we will regain all our territories and we will make sure that Ukraine will not be attacked again.
And how is morale inside Ukraine on this Independence Day? Because we are seeing Ukraine, for the first time in this conflict, really, on the offence rather than the defence, with the incursion into the Kursk region of Russia. Are you feeling for the first time as though you're on the front foot in this conflict?
Well, you know, today, as of any holidays that we have right now, it's a bittersweet feeling, because as of right now, almost 80% of Ukrainian families have either someone fighting at the front or lost someone at the front. So the defense and offense for us is just another point of pride, but also worrying about our soldiers that are doing their job. So, of course, we are proud that we were able to surprise our enemy and also surprise our allies and hope to turn the tide in this war. However, we still need to make sure that we are working on receiving more of the international help and support and are able to secure the fact that our soldiers will not be facing the enemy empty-handed.
Yeah, I mean, will there be flags out? Will there be any ceremonials? Will any of that feeling of joy actually be visible on the streets today?
Well, I raised the flag today, and so many of fellow Ukrainians have done, because this is one of the sacred meanings for us, that we are able to stand united, celebrate that of the time when Kyiv was promised to be taken in 3 days, we are actually still here. We paid an enormous price for that, but at that day, and we hope for many, many days forward, we are remaining an independent state and we are able to live in a free country.
It is absolutely remarkable, the defence that you've been able to put up, and the fact that, as you say, the fact that you're still there. It must be a real source of pride for everybody, as well as agony, I know, for those who have lost loved ones, and for the sheer awfulness of being in a state of war for so long. But the feeling of pride must be tangible.
It is, same as the feeling of gratefulness to all our friends and allies. You know, we know for sure that it is not up to the governments, though we are thankful to the governments of the free world to support us, but it is actually a will of the free people who are standing with us no matter what, who are supporting us with good messages, with the humanitarian aid, and actually with pressuring the governments to do the right thing. You know, every time I go to London and I have a chance to visit, I go and check if Ukrainian flag is still on number 10. And every time I know that it is still there. And on behalf of Ukrainian people, we are so grateful for that.
And how do you feel when you hear Sir Keir Starmer, and it was the same with Rishi Sunak, it was the same with Boris Johnson as well, saying we will stand beside you for as long as this takes? How much does that mean to the Ukrainian people?
You know, the hope is the main fuel that we are running on. And for everyone who is able to support this hope and to give us an assurance that we will not be let alone in this fight, it is incredible and it is critically important.
Well, it's lovely to be able to speak to you today. I hope you have a good day and keep that flag flying.
Thank you, and glory to Ukraine.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. It is remarkable, the journey they've been on.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's not at an end, and it could still go badly, I suppose, but it is absolutely remarkable that they have put up such a fight.
I mean, the fight and the spirit of Ukrainians, I don't think anybody was expecting 2.5 years ago, and we've seen nothing but that fighting spirit since, have we? You remember Vladimir Zelensky when he was offered, to be airlifted out. Do you remember? Right at the very, very start of the invasion by Russia. And he said, no, I don't want to be lifted out. I want ammo. I want guns.
Yes.
We're fighting.
Yeah. And I remember when he was first elected, and so many people saying, they've elected a comedian. Yeah. And my goodness, I mean, obviously he was always more than that. But what a leader he has been.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wartime leader, yeah.
Yeah, it really is. Do stay with us. You're watching GB News Breakfast with Ellie and Dan.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Recently, the cartoons that inspired the Bond films have been gifted to the Oscars archive. I'm joined now by John's son, Sean McCluskey. Very good to see you. Welcome to GB News.
Thanks for having me.
Do you have any memory of your dad doing these strip cartoons?
Well, many, many memories. Yeah, we grew up with my father working at a pace. He had to turn in one strip every day, apart from Sundays. So he was always working at the house, and always taking reference material. He had models dropping in to shoot them with his camera. You go out in the garden and there'd be a guy with a machine gun and he'd be taking photos of him, things like that. Nice memories.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
What would you say about the way he characterised James Bond?
Fleming was very wary that his highbrow art was going to be somehow diminished by turning it into a strip cartoon in a newspaper, but he met with Fleming, and Fleming had a drawing made of what he wanted Bond to look like, and it was very old-fashioned, very sort of military. And my father kind of, jostled a little bit and came through with a much younger, much more lithe character. And through the first few strips, he moved Bond into a contemporary man, very much part of the 60s, and styled him in that way. And I think there's a lot of rumour that Sean Connery got the gig because he looked a lot like the drawings, because it's hard to believe now but the strip was billboard advertised across the country.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans, and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, some breaking news in the past few minutes. The Italian prosecutors have announced formally that a manslaughter investigation is going to be opened into the sinking of the Bayesian superyacht in Sicily on Monday.
You probably don't need reminding that terrible tragedy. 7 people died after the superyacht capsized, including the British entrepreneur Mike Lynch. Well, it was his boat, and his 18-year-old daughter, Hannah,
who just got into Oxford University literally last week, picking up her A-levels. 7 people died in total. Well, the investigators have confirmed that the yacht will be recovered from the seabed.
Yes, they've been announcing all of this in a sort of press conference that has been going on, I think still going on now. And listening in has been Italian journalist and political analyst Marco Colombo. A very good morning, Marco. Can you sum up for us, basically, what have they said?
Yeah, sure. So, first of all, this is the local court, Termini Imerese. So it's not even Palermo, it's the court responsible for Ponticelli, where the accident happened. The prosecutor is Ambrogio Cartosio. This is kind of like a formal procedure. So the prosecution service in Italy has to start an independent investigation. What they're doing now, we could see, you can see there now, the prosecutor is the one holding the mic, and two person down is the head of the fire brigade. Those were the people involved in rescuing, bringing up the bodies of the people missing. So those are the people that have the most information, because they've been providing information such as, the remaining 6 were trying to escape, but they were stuck by furniture. So big question mark why the crew didn't allow the passengers to get out first. So the other question mark is, where was the captain? The captain is the person supposed to leave last. At the back of, you will see at the back, people in white uniform, that's the Coastal Guard. They're now, it says Guardia Costiera, they're the people responsible for doing this major investigation, which will take into consideration the ship, why the ship sank so suddenly. It's quite interesting that the ship has not lost any petrol, so there could be potentially an environmental catastrophe if it does. So they have to look into, lifting up the ship and see where the damage is. There are lots of doubts and lots of speculation about why this happened, why the people responsible. For example, James Cutfield, who saved himself, is a Kiwi. He was supposed to be on guard. Why didn't see the storm coming? Why didn't launch the alarm? You have to remember there was a ship very similar to the one that sank, and nothing happened to that ship. In fact, they were able to send a rescue operation and save 15 people. So the investigation is very much on the people that are still alive, on the builder of the ship, who said it was unsinkable. Clearly, you proved wrong. And what happened in that 15 minutes since the tornado hit.
Received in Italy, I mean, it's just a story that has shocked the world, I'm sure.
Absolutely. In fact, in Italy, we had recently 2 similar cases. One, you might remember, Costa Concordia. 32 people died, though 4,200 were rescued by the stupid act of a captain that decided to come too close to an island. But more recently, in 2023, on a Lake Maggiore, that's a lake up in the north, there was, this is quite interesting, an expedition by 23 members of the Secret Service. That's the Italian and Israeli Secret Service. Something very similar to what happened to what happened, in Sicily. A tornado hit literally just the boat, and 4 people died. It is as if, some magical powers are now able to do a tornado specifically on a ship that they want to target. This is clearly the conversation going on online and saying, how come, that specific entrepreneur who is celebrating his acquittal, celebrating his freedom from American investigators has been hit, and not the ship next to it. On such a big boat, with clearly the state-of-art tools to basically prevent such an event. And the same thing happened on Lake Maggiore. 4 people died. Secret Service, you would imagine there were the people tested to expect the worst, and they sank in the lake. That happened in 2023. In that case, there were too many people on the boat. So out of 23, 4 died. That is still a mystery.
A little premature. Maybe that's just to a British way of thinking, that it should be called manslaughter at this stage. Normally, you would think there would be an investigation into the accident and also sort of inquests into the human beings who lost their lives before anyone would presume that anyone was at fault. In calling it a manslaughter investigation, which has now been formally opened, aren't the investigators actually saying somebody is to blame already?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the way they're proceeding. It's called omicidio colposo. What they're investigating really is a shipwreck, disaster, and multiple homicides. So these are the facts. Clearly, there's been a shipwreck, which is a disaster, and several people died. So clearly, from the Italian point of view, which is different, we have civil law as opposed to common law, somebody has to blame, somebody has to take responsibility. Potentially, it could be even this guy that is talking, the guy in charge of the Coast Guard. They could have called the ship in and say, don't stay so far, because clearly they were a bit far from the coast, or not given the warning. So once you do an investigation, let me give an example. Once I was doing an investigation for British media, and we went to Abruzzo, where there had been an earthquake, and the people on trial were the scientists because they didn't warn it too early. They didn't, and they got 9 years in jail. You have to remember the way it works in Italy. You're not going to go in jail on the first round. There's going to be appeal and then high court. So even if, let's say, the captain or somebody from the Coast Guard, some officials or some private individual, even the builder of the ship gets charged and sentenced with a few years in jail, it's very unlikely that he's going to end up in jail anyway.
And Marco, really interesting, isn't it, and important to reflect that the shipbuilder is going to be looked at in this investigation, because the remarks have left many in the industry, well, flabbergasted, really, haven't they? The remarks about the vessel, he was claiming that the boat was unsinkable. It kind of sounded like the White Star's claims about the Titanic.
Oh, have we lost Marco?
I think we may have just lost Marco. Mark, are you still with us?
Yeah, I think it's a way to say, I'm an entrepreneur, I do the best of both. Italy's famous, and it is the main industry. Don't look at me. Clearly, look at them and what they've done, which could be because he knows that some of the the speculation or some information that journalists have been gathering on site is that some of the doors were open, and clearly the sailing boat was not ready for the storm. So if you're expecting such a storm, you prepare. You can have a storm like that in the Atlantic Ocean, let alone in a little harbor in Sicily. So what the owner of the ship has been saying is that is an amazing sailing ship, equipped and ready, and to cross the Atlantic or the Pacific, and you're sinking it in front of another, in front of a Coast Guard, without even sending. I understand also that there was no Mayday, so basically they didn't even call for help. They were lucky that there was another sailing boat nearby who could send a tender and save them. Otherwise, the numbers of people dead would have been higher. So
yes, when we were first told of this, we thought how amazing, didn't really understand that parts of the Mediterranean could be subject to such bad storms. But apparently that is an area quite well known for bad storms.
When I looked on that day, I think there were 54 such a storm, and several people, I've seen also on the news, several people have been saying, yeah, as a sailor, you know what to do. It was quite interesting on the day. The fishermen that at 3 o'clock were supposed to go out, they look at the sky and say, maybe today we're not going. They were not terrified. They didn't call for help. They saw all the sailing boats out in the harbor. Them as fishermen said, we'll pass on today. We may go tomorrow, which basically means they're actually used to it. They're used to go out in a storm. They would have never imagined that their shipping boats will survive and not a major. That sailing boat there in the harbor was like St. Paul Cathedral. It was all lit up. It was super high. It was a symbol of wealth. It was, in a way, the speculation that they were too far because they didn't want to be seen. People could see with binoculars who is on board. So they kind of paid for the privacy because they were a bit too far. If they were close to the harbor, they would have been saved easier. Because people in the morning at 3 a.m. ready to go to work, waited for the storm to pass. And then as they were waiting for the storm, they saw the ship going down in 60 minutes.
Marco, we're watching this press conference now where manslaughter investigations have been opened officially, but investigators have been working since the moment this went down, really, haven't they? They've been examining videos and photos, and we know that they've conducted lengthy interviews over the past few days as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The head of the fire brigade, a national head of the fire brigade, came down to Sicily on Thursday, and he said, for us, it has been so complicated and such a mammoth job that it was like an 18-story palace block. So, you know, we're thinking of a sailing boat, maybe has three levels, but because it was 50 meters down, it was almost impossible to get in. That's why only 3 days ago, front pages in UK was saying, hoping for the miracle, when in fact the people in Sicily the day after already knew that nothing could be done, because now with radars, satellite. So I think they were looking into the details, into this. This is the prosecutor. So he's clearly been gathering information for the last 5-6 days, and now he can press charges. But I think at the moment the press charges are anonymous. So he hasn't actually declared who are the people under investigation. He's been talking for 2 hours with the captain, we understand. He's probably been investigating and talking to other members. All the survivors are in a very kind of a reclusive and kind of like VIP enclave for the shock, but also because they need to be there to be questioned. It is only the beginning, really. Basically, what he's saying is these are the people behind me that helped the rescue and will help me, provide me more information. If you have information, come forward.
Marco, as we understand, and I think you said earlier, they are going to try and raise the yacht, which will tell them a lot, I presume. Be terribly tragic to see. And there are several people under this manslaughter investigation. How long is the whole process likely to take?
It's likely to take months, if not years. With Costa Concordia, and I saw with my own eyes the investigation and the prosecution, the captain has been sent to, I think, 18 years in jail, of which he probably spent 10. And they were doing the court case in the theatre because there were so many. Costa Concordia is probably the biggest of this event happening in the Med. They were doing this hearing, and there were hundreds of people there to take part, both on the interrogation side and just as witnesses. So they were hiring it's not going to be the case for this one, because you have 15 people. It can easily be done in a court case. Termini Imerese is a quite decent court near Palermo. I mean, they're the kind of people that used to deal with mafia members and corruption and kind of like European fraud. But this is something new to them. I think it will take a lot of technicians. It will take they will have to rely heavily, as you said, once you bring the ship up. We did it with Costa Concordia. We were able to flip Costa Concordia, which is, as you can imagine, as big as a 15-story palace. We managed to bring it up, drag into a port, and dismantle it. But because you need to see what happened in each phase, again, it seems like the crew jumped out of the boat before going to help the daughter, Hannah, and the other 5 people that got trapped. Also, they were found in an area that was not, they were not in their bedrooms, so they were not asleep. So they were probably trying to escape, but in a way they were left behind. So this is what has been done so far. So clearly, when something like that happens, the captain will be the person in charge. The captain will be the last one to leave.
So given that there is now an investigation and they're calling it a manslaughter investigation, the surviving crew members, will they be detained? Will they be imprisoned until the whole investigation is concluded? Or are they free to go?
No, unless they are tampering with investigation, which is unlikely considering the vessel is under the sea and the owner of the vessel has already spoken. That's coming back to what you said. The owner of the vessel basically said, "Don't look at me. I've done a proper job. That was a great sailing vessel. So if you want, you can come and have it. Once it's up, you can come and have a look. But it's nothing to do with the vessel. Why don't you look at the procedure, the fact that knowing there was probably they never even watched the fact that there was here in Sicily, it's boiling hot. They didn't even care to look at the weather forecast. They didn't care about leaving somebody on guard. James Garfield probably was having a nap when the thing happened. So back to the jailing. Unless you're caught, unless something comes up, that we would know by now. So I suspect that they haven't been able to do alcohol test, but there was a party going on the boat. So you would imagine that people were sleeping at 3 o'clock as opposed to be on guard. But that's a bit too late. So you only get jail if they catch you while you're doing it. So if one of the survivors had come out drunk, he would have gone to jail. But because they're all kind of like safely in a, I think they're resting.
Yeah.
Even the fact that they're not letting them go, it's a sign, as you can tell.
Yeah.
They're not really free to go anywhere at the moment. They're under investigation, all of them.
Yes, and they know it too. They'll be living under that for a long time by the sound of it. Marco Colombo, thank you so much for helping us with that. It turns out to be more fascinating and more tragic the more you learn.
And the distressing detail that 5 bodies were found in the same part of that vessel.
And they weren't asleep in bed.
They weren't asleep in bed. They were together trying to get out.
Oh.
I don't know if it makes it that better or worse,
It doesn't
really.
bear
Very
thinking
distressing.
about, does it? But there you are. That's the way the Italians do it. They're actually calling it a manslaughter investigation now.
Yeah.
That's it from us. Let's get some weather for you, and we'll see you tomorrow.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. Staying cool and blustery this weekend, still some rain around, but also some sunshine. It's not going to rain everywhere all the time, but there will be a lot of rain around this morning for the Midlands, East Anglia, the south and southeast, and in fact